6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning. It's Wednesday, February 28th, and boy, do we have some breaking news for you today.
Yeah.
Overnight, Representative Lauren Boebert's son, Tyler, arrested, faces 22 charges after alleged thefts. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. We talked with Lauren Boebert yesterday, and boy, do I have some words. Which we'll get to in a second, but you are not going to want to miss this. 22 charges.
Wow, this is nuts. And they're talking about some conspiracy charges. This is not, I mean, just based on the first blush, this is not the reading of a kid that went out and was goofing around and having fun and got into trouble. This isn't even apparently, I mean, just based on first read, couple of kids getting together and doing something stupid.
Right.
This seems to be something that has a larger, like there's a
systemic crime
involved.
problem here.
They're talking about like financial devices, 4 counts of a fraudulent financial device. That is serious, and fake IDs, and wow.
We'll get into that. Let's get to the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to leave all that to you guys this morning. I mean, my goodness.
I know.
Can we start the song? Na 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 na.
Yeah. How does this hurt it? Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
That is amazing. All right, we'll talk about that throughout the morning. It's 17 and clear in Denver, expecting sunny skies and highs in the low 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, other than the one that Jeff and Bill just told you about, former President Trump can claim another victory after Michigan's Republican primary.
Trump easily defeated his main rival, Nikki Haley, in the state Tuesday after winning in her home state of South Carolina over the weekend. While Trump has essentially secured the GOP nomination, Haley has vowed to stay in the race, arguing both Trump and President Biden are unpopular among most Americans. President Biden, meanwhile, won the Michigan Democratic primary, but a significant number of voters cast an uncommitted ballot to protest his handling of the Israel-Hamas war. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Now, Jeff has his interview with Haley just ahead this morning. Stay tuned for that. The Colorado National Guard.
And as usual, 203.
603. And
there's Blake is back. There he is. He's back. As usual. You had your, I guess it's government mandated pause or something. I don't know. Or maybe we just reset the I don't know. I'm gonna go check the buttons.
We have to get theme music.
Yes, we do.
We really do. The Colorado National Guard is now activated to help protect next week's election. Governor Polis issued an executive order Tuesday. It calls for 6 to 9 members from a special security for the presidential primary up to 30 days. Voters can make their voices heard by next Tuesday. As of Monday afternoon, just over 519,000 had been received. Hey, here's a little of President Biden's interview with Seth Meyers last night.
And I really mean this sincerely. I think it's about the future. And every single thing we've done. I think we've got some good things done. Everything, and they told us we couldn't get them done because things were so divided. And but I think everything we've gotten done, he's just friendly stated he wants to do away with if he gets elected. And I really think his views on where to take America are older than. Anyway, I don't want to get.
Okay,
no way. That was real.
Oh yeah, that was.
Oh
real.
boy,
how have we gone from ask not what your country, the great speeches that we used to rely on from the leader of the free world to that?
I love the fact at the very end he's like, and anyway. That's my favorite part of the entire clip. He just gives up at the end.
Yeah, it's the story of my life. But,
yes.
I'm not president.
I know,
Goodness. All right, the nation's biggest nuclear weapons facility is being threatened by a fast-moving wildfire in the Texas Panhandle. The Pantex plant is about 17 miles northeast of Amarillo and not far from the Smokehouse Creek fire, which grew from 40,000 acres to 200,000 acres in just 6 hours on Tuesday and is burning out of control. Officials posted an X Tuesday that personnel at the plant were building a fire barrier to protect the facility, and all the nuclear weapons on site were safe and unaffected. All right, breaking developments also in the case of the Penrose Funeral Home, where 190 bodies were found stacked inside. A second owner is walking free this morning. Kerry Halford posted $100,000 bond and was released from the El Paso County Jail last night. All right, news brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. In sports, CSU, man, they're having troubles. They fall to Nevada 77-74. They've lost 4 of their last 5. CU goes for 3 straight tonight against Cal. The Nuggets go for 4 straight against the Kings tonight in the Avalanche over the Stars. It is 15 in Littleton, 12 in Boulder, 17 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue with the story on Boebert's son right now on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, text messages already coming in. So Boebert's son is kind of like Hunter Biden, huh? Let's see how the lamestream media treats him and
this
do a
song's
comparison.
A bit thematic.
Boulevard of Broken Dreams.
Yeah, it's a bit thematic. Yeah.
All right, so we hosted Lauren Boebert yesterday and did an interview with her, and it was a fine interview. She talked about her faith. She talked about kind of overcoming her own personal challenges and still wanting to serve the people. That was kind of her primary motivation, because I asked her, why not just go on the speaking circuit? You could make more money. Why all this running for office and campaigning and then having to get on a plane and fly to Washington, D.C. and do all that stuff?
Yeah, why the headache?
And she mentioned that serving was her primary motivation, and serving the people and representing people and doing constituent work, that type of stuff. All right. So this news broke last night. This would have been a very different conversation yesterday. Yeah. Representative Lauren Boebert's son, Tyler, arrested, faces 22 charges after alleged thefts. This is from New York Post. Rep. Lauren Boebert of Colorado's oldest son was arrested on Tuesday and faces 22 criminal charges, including 5 felonies, following a string of alleged thefts in Colorado. Tyler Boebert, 18 years old, was slapped with 5 felony charges, 4 for criminal possession of ID documents with multiple victims. So he's stealing ideas. This would be good.
Yeah.
It'd be good to have George Brauchler here explain all this. And 1 conspiracy to commit charge. The teen also faces misdemeanor charges of 4 first-degree criminal trespassing of an automobile with intent to commit a crime, 4 charges of identity theft, possession with intent to use, 2 charges for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Tyler Boebert, who turns 19 in March, was also handed 3 petty offenses for theft, less than $300. Boebert's arrest is the teen's latest brush with the police. In 2022, Boebert was given a careless driving causing bodily injury ticket when he flipped his father's SUV into a Garfield County creek bed, injuring his 19-year-old friend. I remember when that happened.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, well, they're kind of teenagers driving around.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that willful or criminal.
Yeah. And all of us in this conversation who have not had not just one friend, but several friends roll a car, raise your hand.
Yeah, right.
Nope, not me.
I was in an accident with a buddy who spun out.
I have multiple friends that have rolled their cars. I have a friend that, well, again, She later on embarked in a long string of criminal endeavors, so not necessarily a surprise, but managed to roll her car going up Lookout Mountain. So as she's going up this way, they were going so fast up that she rolled up the hill.
That's why they're shutting that place down.
Yeah. So, and again, stupid. Young and stupid, but
this is different.
This is totally different.
A bench warrant was issued for the teen who eventually called the court and requested, after having be changed later. Oh, this is a different charge, but this seems a lot more criminal. I mean, it seems like he's breaking into cars and
much more organized.
Much
That's
more
the
organized.
Thing for me is that there seems to be elements in this where it's not just goofing around and being stupid. It's not just young, dumb, and drunk. That this seems to be more of a focus on intentionality, that there is more of a plan put in place, that we are doing X in order to facilitate Y. And that's a huge problem. That is taking another step as far as criminality. We all can understand or empathize with a single stupid criminal decision. Not say it's okay, but we can empathize. A string of them in order to facilitate a criminal process, procedure, or end result. No.
So yesterday I was a little sheepish to engage in Boebert's personal life, just because I was trying to be sensitive to whether or not I would have done that for Ken Buck as well. And we didn't dive into Ken's personal life.
And it also,
all that stuff.
It was really the first formal conversation we had with her.
Right.
And I firmly believe that, with some rare exceptions, you don't challenge in that arena. The idea being, if she would have come on and we would have had differentiations on policy and some other stuff, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think later on we can get into the larger structures. So like when a candidate comes on, we can debate policy and positions. And I think even on the first blush, it's okay. But those deeper conversations,
those personal issues.
Yeah, I just think it's
what
fair.
Was happening at Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
All right.
It's fair.
So obviously Tyler's innocent until proven guilty. We don't know if he did these. We don't know how connected he was. So we've got to give him that benefit of the doubt. That's important in our criminal justice system, just because the media writes it. Believe me, as a guy who has to deal with that with Kyle Clark all the time, you're like, what in the world? Just because the media writes it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So innocent until proven guilty. But Lauren, just yesterday, and in every level I've engaged with her, has leaned on her faith. As core to who she is. Okay. So this isn't me bringing the Bible into a conversation where she didn't bring it already up. Okay. So
we're not bringing the Bible into a conversation about Michael Bennett, who we don't know if he's ever picked it up. And if it did, it might've burnt a little. I'm just saying.
So this is why Christians naturally struggle with this type of activity, because someone's asking to be put into a leadership position when their personal families are facing massive problems. Okay. This comes from 1 Timothy 3. This has to do with overseers and deacons. So essentially leaders within the church. Okay. It is a trustworthy statement. If any man aspires to the office of overseer or leader in the church, it is fine work he desires to do. There's nothing wrong with that. An overseer then must be above reproach, the husband to one wife, temperate, prudent, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not addicted to wine or pugnacious, but gentle, peaceable, free from the love of money. And this is important. He must be one who manages his own household well, keeping his children under control with all dignity. But if a man does not know how to manage his own household, how will he take care of the church of God? So Christians naturally, influenced by that scripture, go, you want to be a leader in the church, you want to be a leader in the community, anything like that, you need to demonstrate that you can get your own closest people to you, the people you have charge over by God, because God gave you these children, to manage well. And if there are problems there, that should be the primary area of your focus. So you can't run off and seek all these other leadership positions while your own house is dealing with all these challenges.
Yeah, it's a great sentiment, because at the core of it, it basically says that you are not ready to be a leader. My interpretation, you're not ready to be a leader until you have the structure in place around the family. The idea being how effective, how much time are you going to be able to spend being that leader if you're also dealing with this tumultuous nature of what's going on at home. That is a split. That is something where if you get everything set and right, you get the table set at home, then you can go out and talk about serving the rest of the community. But the table needs to be set properly at home first, because otherwise you're out there working the community and you're also worried about the table being set. So you can't do both.
You're not devoting the time and energy you need to outside of that because you're dealing with this. But it's also a stewardship issue.
Yes.
So like, I didn't pick my kids. Some people can, right? They adopt, but I didn't pick my kids. They just showed up. Right.
Yeah.
I think I know how they showed up, but I
was there.
They just showed.
As I tell my wife, I was only there for the fun parts.
Exactly.
Only the really fun part. That's about it.
So they give you these kids, and you're like, okay, I didn't design your personalities. But I can guide and shepherd your upbringing.
But I do remind my children all the time that I can make another one of you, though. Just saying that,
we don't like this.
Yeah, I'm just
we'll
saying
get to the next one.
Yeah, exactly. All right, keep going.
So, you're given this charge to watch over and guide these people into embracing holy lives. That's the point of being a parent, right? God could have given them to another parent. He could have done whatever he wanted to, but he gave them to you, and he charged you to guide them and raise them in the way that they should go.
Yeah.
There's other Bible verses about that. If you teach them that, they won't depart from that. So you have a very, very serious job as a parent. Now, I don't want to negate this, because I've known some great people that have had challenges with their kids, right? I was not a good kid when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I was rebellious. I broke away from my parents and stuff. So you can't put all of the responsibility and go, well, this is all Lauren Boebert's fault. That's not the point. We're not saying that.
No.
Tyler Boebert is 18 years old. He did this himself.
Yep.
But here's the question I'm asking you. You're in a primary. So this isn't a general election where I've got to choose between this person and some radical pro-abort that is, going to drive a crazy leftist agenda.
Yeah.
That's not the discussion.
Not the general. Yeah.
This is a primary. So you have lots of other Republicans in the race that you can choose from. Is this the best time for Lauren Boebert to be seeking leadership when she has not little problems? Not, I went out and got popped by the cops, underage drinking, that type of thing. Not, I ran a red light. 22 counts, including conspiracy charges.
Yeah. Some of them are felonies. And this isn't
felonies.
This isn't cutting class. This isn't, failing out of college. And I see where you're going with this, because the idea is where my heart is, her family, and especially the son, needs help.
Yeah.
He's going down a path where he needs a lot of support. He needs his family around him. And I imagine some of what has been going on between his mom and dad and that difficulty in the marriage leads into it as well. That this is, there are a whole bunch of things that are influencing what's going on right now. And I have a hard time believing that Lauren in Washington and fulfilling her role in Congress is going to help the healing. I don't think that if Tyler was asked what would help him get through these challenging times, I doubt that in the first 5 things he would mention is mom going to Washington.
Right.
I don't think that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
And this is not the right response. Sorry, I will tell you, as a rock-ribbed conservative, MAGA-loving guy.
Yeah.
So Joe Biden's got problems with his kids too. Yep. That's not the right response to this.
Yeah.
The right response is Lauren Boebert leads with her faith. It is central to who she is. We talked about that yesterday.
Yeah.
Right? And the Bible says that if your house is not in order, you shouldn't be seeking additional leadership roles.
Yeah.
Your kids need your help. Your family needs your help. And I would say this, if this was a man or a woman, this has nothing to do with that. This is about one Christian to another Christian. Based upon our conversations yesterday and a lot of other conversations, you got to address that. You got to be there for your kids.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, again, I'm not trying to make an excuse for Biden. I think that Hunter was Cracky the crackhead in around 2016, 17. That would be when Biden is out of office. So I think, but again, not purposefully. I don't think that he made the choice to step away from it. And I do question him stepping back into the spotlight to go back to president, because it is obvious that his son needed more help. So I have that criticism of that idea that I think you're absolutely right, that the response isn't, but Hunter Biden is a mess up. No, we got to take care of our own house. We have to have expectations for what we want out of Boebert. And I have a hard time thinking that the best thing is, well, if Joe Biden did it, that's okay.
Don't criticize me, Joe Biden.
That can't be the justification.
There's a fair critique of Joe Biden too.
Oh,
I mean, his kids, all that stuff. Yeah. And even there was a granddaughter vaping the other day with him.
Oh yeah. And the granddaughter for me is the one that Hunter Biden's love child that he's ignoring. They've been ignoring it as family.
Yes.
He has tremendous cracks and foundational problems in his family. And both his family, and probably the nation would have been better served for him not to run again. But I don't get to make the choices. I'm not in the meeting. They don't ask me.
All right. Lots of text messages here. Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. That is one that we hold on to, that a lot of my friends hold on to as well. When really good people, and I mentioned this, that you can't always control what your kids do. And so there's that element. You can't ignore that in this case, that Lauren may be trying to do everything she can to try to reach Tyler. And a lot of parents hold on to that. But man,
my wife uses that in the other direction. She turns and she says, this is your fault.
You trained them this way.
It's not the big things. It's the sarcasm. It's the other things that they do that come from me. And she's like, yeah, this is you. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Let's go to Mary in Wyoming. Good morning, Mary. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning.
Morning.
Trying to have a new phone, and I'm trying to get you off speaker.
Well, you sound great.
Yeah, that is the worst thing, when you get a new phone and you have no idea how to navigate the menus, and you can't text or anything else. It's the worst. It's almost as bad as getting a remote control.
At this point, I mean, I've always been a supporter of her. I loved her feistiness and what she has done for the country, and that she did do a lot of the things that she said on your show yesterday. I have to agree with what you're saying right now. I think it's time for her to go home. I think her family needs her. What I think is sad is that between her husband and her children, none of them have supported her.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. That is a really interesting take on it, Mary.
I think that's recent, because I attended events with Lauren and Jason was a very supportive spouse through the initial part of her political career. I think the recent divorce obviously has changed that, but I think that's more recent. Early on, I think everybody was supportive, but it does seem like, Mary, to your point, that the family is fracturing pretty bad.
Seems like a fair critique now. Yeah, absolutely.
You have the son who had the child out of wedlock. In other words, her boys, she has 2 left. I think, unfortunately, she needs to go home and address her family. And like you said, she'd be a great speaker. Maybe she can, still have an income and an input in doing those kind of things, but not the demands that it takes to be
now, Mary,
a congressman.
Given your experience and where you are in your life at this point, if you got a chance to sit down with Lauren for 5 minutes and just to talk to her one-on-one, what's the advice you would give her? What would you tell her right now in this moment of crisis?
I confer with what you're saying right now. As a Christian, etc., I think she's going to recognize it. It's interesting, and make it a little deviant, that I wonder if she knew about this yesterday when you were talking to her.
That was the first thing I said to Bill this morning.
Yeah,
because she was traveling. Remember, she said she was on the Eastern Slope. She was traveling over. I don't think, by the time, what I found in politics is, by the time the media finds out, it's been a few days.
Yeah, we're a little slow sometimes.
So I'm sad because I think it would have been a good opportunity for her to go ahead and identify, because we have such other candidates that could hold that position. It's not that critical for her to be in charge. I really think at this point there's just too much damage. Damage control to me would be going home to her family and acknowledge I need to be there for my family at this point.
And I don't think people would look down on her at all. I think, in fact, they would applaud it, right? Like if that happened, in light of this, it's very clear with the separation, with my son dealing with this, now with the new grandchild. And that separation wasn't an amicable separation either, right? Like she had to file restraining orders, all that stuff. And just going, I am going to find the Bible, follow the Bible's teaching, and make sure my family and that house is in order first. Mary, I have this conversation a lot with politicians. I'm going to get a little personal here. This is I'm a trained pastor. It's a part of my heart that just comes out when I have these conversations, even down at the state capitol, in the back stages of the Western Conservative Summit, things like that. The long-term impact on your political career is actually very small. If you could tell me who was the congressman of CD5 3 people ago, I would be shocked.
Good point.
We don't remember it. Your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren are the legacy that you leave on this earth for generation after generation after generation. And when you think about how that spreads out, you think about that impact, because that's what these people ultimately want, right? They want to change the world. They're motivated to try to change the world. So if that's your motivation, the biggest impact that you will have is the impact you have with your own family. So make that your top priority and do not sacrifice that for a political office that will hardly be remembered 20 years from now.
That's excellent.
It's just the reality. And I hope I help people understand that, because I want them to maximize. I don't want them to sacrifice but this is systemic when you look at the divorce and the brokenness that's taking place on both sides of the aisle among the political leadership, not in this state, but across the country. Politics is a family destroyer. And I just try to remind people, keep what's important. If you really want to set out a legacy, keep that central.
Hey, Mary, thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
A lot of wisdom from Mary.
Yeah, that was really good. I enjoy her phone calls a lot.
Yeah, she's great.
You're talking about the, politics destroying families. Oddly enough, radio does the same thing, but in a different way. With the radio, it's the constant moves. It's going from market to market to market. And I have had a couple of opportunities to jump markets and have declined specifically because of the family and marital relationships and that foundation, knowing that you're picking up and you're moving. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. First, you're like, I don't know, but think about the spouse of the person being involved in radio. Yeah. So you're in Denver for 3 years, something changes, and now you've been working on your career. Now you've got to pick up, and now you've got to move to Montana, or you're moving to Florida, or you're moving to West Virginia. And then 4 or 5 years, maybe 8 years after that, you've got that business there. Now you're going to Texas, and you may be there for 2, 3, 4 years. Then you're going somewhere else. And the spouse never gets a chance to really see their career flourish in many situations. Now, if you're working from home and you have that ability to work anywhere on the planet, or you're a computer programmer, stuff like that, then you have that ability. Yeah. Right. But 90% of it don't. And the difficulty and stress on the spouses with those constant moves is so hard, because that spouse constantly has to give up their career, their life, and their friendships based on who they married and where we're going around the country. There is a laundry list of broken marriages that I could go through because of the hardship that radio puts on you because of that. Yeah. And I chose not to move. There are a couple of times that one was a really, really good offer, but it was the wrong time for the family. It was the wrong time to pick up the kids and to move them at that point. Yeah. My wife received a wonderful job offer to move the family, but it was specifically at a time where 2 of our kids, we had specific experience both with friends and then also inside of our families, where moving kids at that age is really, really difficult socially and educationally, that you can take a straight A kid and turn them into a dropout inside of 12 months in this transition if it's not done right. And so we were like, nope, we're not taking that chance.
Bill, you prioritized your family, and I can tell it makes a big difference.
It does.
Good text message here. I don't know if Arsenio Hall's a Christian, but he stepped away from his show to raise his son. And I know other people who are not famous who did the same thing. Johnny J from Denver.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you. Folks in the military move every 3 years. It's a big challenge for the folks in the military, too.
It is. It is. I read stuff for Armed Forces Network about, what is it, militarychildcare.com? I think that's what it is. I read a lot of advertisements for them because it is that difficulty of moving 2-3 years. How do you find childcare? And that's for both domestically and also internationally. That they've set up these services. So I read those all the time about how difficult it is for those families that continue to transition.
Headline out of the New York Post: Representative Lauren Boebert's son Tyler arrested, faces 22 charges after alleged thefts. Does this change your position on Lauren? We hosted her yesterday. Did you hear the interview? Did you like her after this? Do you go, maybe it's important for her to take a step away and deal with this? Or does this not change your position? We need a real fighter in there. Lauren is committed to doing that. She wants to serve the people. This is the way she provides for her family. Let's put her back into office. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
News breaking over the evening. Rep. Lauren Boebert's son, Tyler, arrested, faces 22 charges. 22 charges after alleged thefts, 4 for criminal possession of ID documents, 5 felonies, and 1 conspiracy to commit charge. A whole lot. This is the topic for this morning right now. We're going to get to the Nikki Haley interview in a minute. Jim, we're going to get to your call just next. Let's go to Blake. Tell us some of the other news you're working on, man.
Yeah, that's just sad. It's a sad story. You look at the family aspect and then you look at the political thing. And to me, I mean, doesn't she have to do the right thing and show the left how to do it, step away and put her family first? I mean, there's so many.
It's
many
not
questions.
the end of her career.
Right, exactly.
And this is what we were trying to get to yesterday.
Mhm.
She could easily have, in fact, she could have probably a bigger influence.
Yes.
Because she's so well-spoken and articulate that if you just unleashed her on media 24 hours a day, I think she would actually do really well there. Yeah. And you're not on a plane 50 weeks out of the year back to DC. You can do it from your own home. I did a piece with Jenna Ellis yesterday, and Jenna it was on the Salem Media program. You can go see that on her show, but she gets to do that from her place. I do that from here from Denver. You don't have to travel all that much, and maybe so you could still have the impact, but you've got to make sure you put family first. You focus on the family.
And he's crying out for her. He's crying out for help. Yeah. And I think this would make a great statement. She could really help a lot of people in this situation if she did that and just maybe temporarily stepped away. I mean, I would love to see that. Hopefully that happens, but we'll see. A lot of people think differently. Trump wins the Michigan primary. We'll talk about that, Jeff. And New York Mayor Eric Adams, guess what? He looks like he doesn't want to be a sanctuary city anymore. He's trying to change some laws.
What?
Wait, what? Can you imagine that? What a shocker.
When the migrants show up, we have to pay for them?
That's not fun.
No.
Wow.
We can't just make broad gestures.
That guy's a piece of work, man.
Oh yeah.
We'll hear from him coming up at the top of the hour and much more on the news right here on 710 KNUS.
Thank you, Blake. Appreciate it. So here's the headline. Rep. Lauren Boebert's son, Tyler, arrested, faces 22 charges after alleged thefts. Let's go to some of these text messages here. Her son is 18. He will have to be held accountable. I always told my son after the age of 18, if you encounter the law, he would be accountable. As a parent, you can only do so much. Too much evil influence outside the home. You cannot be without your child 24/7. I don't think she has any choice but to step away. To not do so would further shine the light on how her mind, it is all her, and she doesn't even realize how abnormal her normal has become. I feel badly for the trajectory of her life. Like I said, I think she should read her own press and believed it, and that went to her head. Now she's getting blown up in the whole personal life, and the worst of it is that everyone's watching. Fran is not a fan. Preferable to, she's, I'm not going to read that one. That's a little derogatory. I see this latest incident as a scream for help. His parents are divorcing. His mom was caught misbehaving with another man in the Buell Theater. She's all over the news and continually roasted by the leftist media. Her kids are at a pivotal age, and it's time to be a mom first, along with dad getting it together as well. Put your kids first. Beth, Green Mountain Falls. I agree with Beth there. Let's go to Jim, Denver. You're on News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, good morning. Don't you know who I am? I'm sorry.
Nicely done. That was good.
That's the funny part. That's the funny part of the call, okay? So, as a conservative, I've always viewed Lauren Boebert as a screaming peacock. Of course, she's screaming on my behalf. I knew it wasn't going to work out, and it's very short-lived. I know some people that say she's trying to get to that 5-year mark so she can get the lifetime government benefits. Now, that grandchild has got to be raised by somebody.
Yep.
The father, Jason, is in the criminal justice system. The son is clearly in the criminal justice system. The mother, of course, she's not in the criminal justice system. However, she stuck her hand up and put a big old smile on her face a couple of weeks ago when asked how many people on this stage have been arrested.
Yep.
And I think the hypocrisy here. Now, I called yesterday. I'm sorry for 2 calls in 1 week, but I used the word hypocrisy yesterday and I meant it. And today I'm going to use the word hypocrisy again. And I also mean it. As a conservative, someone's got to raise that child. And in reality, it's going to be you, me, our grandchildren through our tax base in some fashion or form. And that's not very conservative. And that's just what I think.
Jim, if
Good
you
point.
were face to face with her, and I know you want to do this in a mean-spirited way, but what would you just tell her if you just said, "Hey, Lauren, I'm a constituent of yours. Here's my advice." What would you say?
I would tell her to let a real conservative in that position, because I don't believe she is. Like, when I say she's a screaming peacock, I mean it. That's what I viewed her and some of these other people as. I mean, and it goes all the way up to Donald Trump. And there's a reason why Donald Trump is in that position. And there's a reason why he was elected in 2016. And unfortunately, Donald Trump has brought us more Democrats than any other person out there in all actuality.
Jim, question for
more
you
Democrats than elected.
as a conservative, if it was between Lauren Boebert and a Democrat in a general election, would you still vote for her?
I got to not vote. I mean, how do you look at that ballot and check a box? I can't do it.
That's interesting.
I mean, I just can't do it. I would stay out of the race. Unfortunately, these people on the MAGA side, they're not conservative. They can scream all day about being conservative, but in reality, they're not conservative, because if for no other reason, they are motivating a broad aspect. They are motivating the electorate to vote like never before. And the Republican Party succeeds and has been successful when they follow the Paul Weyrich theory. Have you guys remember?
I know
Weyrich?
Paul
He's
Weyrich.
dead now.
Yeah, sure.
Paul Weyrich said, "Hey, we don't want the public to vote. The more of the public that votes, the less elections we win." And he was right. And over history, you can look back and you should play the Paul Weyrich.
Yeah, I don't know that
interview,
quote.
The goo government interview from the 80s, and see if it pertains to what's become of our party, because we have been taken over. The Republican Party's dead. It's Donald Trump's party. And there's a bunch of union workers voting for Donald Trump because they like people that get out there and scream at the top of their lungs, even if they don't mean it. Lauren Boebert, in my opinion, is just a screaming peacock.
Jim, I
And I can't
appreciate the
take her
call.
seriously.
Thank you. Jim from Denver. Jim's line's going to be open here in just a second. 303-696-1971. Headline breaking over the night. Rep. Lauren Boebert's son, Tyler, arrested, faces 22 charges after alleged thefts. Big charges, too. 5 felony charges, 4 for criminal possession of ID documents with multiple victims, and 1 conspiracy to commit charge.
Yeah, this is not underage possession. This is not curfew.
Yep.
These are real adult charges that involve what appears to be some sort of a criminal enterprise, or at least the attempt to create one because of one of them was, we're talking about felonies of possessing financial machinery, and that's really weird.
So Tyler is innocent until proven guilty, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Does this change your position on Lauren Boebert? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. We all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and to overcome pain. I'm thriving I'm fighting back my workout soreness with UltraCur. I was up working out this morning early. My boys got up with me. We did arms and chest workouts this morning.
Oh, yeah. Don't skip leg day.
UltraCur is a patented non-prescription natural capsule that works fast. Surveys show that 50% of people using UltraCur find relief within 48 hours and half of those within 2 hours. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro Natural Grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. UltraCur is fueled by patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. If you've tried everything without much success, even other natural curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try UltraCur today. UltraCur gives you unique control over your daily wellness. It's gentle on your stomach, and it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to Natural Grocers, grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial, no strings attached. Wondering about the research? Get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. Well, coming up next is You Choose the News. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier. Here are the top stories we're following. President Joe Biden easily won the Democratic presidential primary in Michigan, but angry Democrats protested his handling of the Israel-Hamas war. Michigan has the largest concentration of Arab Americans in the nation, and Democratic voters were urged to mark their ballots as uncommitted to protest the White House's handling of the situation in the Middle East. Former President Trump, meanwhile, won the state's Republican primary by a large margin, increasing his lead against Nikki Haley. This comes just a week before Super Tuesday on March 5th. A man facing the death penalty is pleading his innocence with just hours until his scheduled execution. 50-year-old Ivan Cantu is set to become the first case of capital punishment this year in Texas. Benji Heyer reports from Austin.
It's a complicated story. Mr. Cantu denies committing a double murder that landed him on death row more than 2 decades ago. There was no physical evidence proving he was at the crime scene, yet his clothes had the victim's blood on them. On Tuesday, a Texas court rejected his latest appeal. That's despite calls led by celebrity Kim Kardashian to save his life. It's doubtful we'll ever know the truth of what happened in 2000, certainly not before the state administers the lethal dosage on Wednesday evening. In Austin, Texas, Benji Heyer for Salem News Channel.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadier in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
right, let's get to You Choose the News, Bill.
Yes, it is time for everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. You Choose the News. We have scoured the interwebs for really ridiculous stories, giving them stupid headlines to play this fake radio news game because nobody that can make any major decisions is listening. So we are going to be silly for a little bit. Enjoy the ride, folks. Jeff is joined by Blake Olson from our news department. Blake will be choosing the third story today. Gentlemen, here are your headlines. Headline number 1, Christmas, now the one holiday this woman hates. Headline number 2, we are ruining the word dynamic. Headline number 3, trans indoctrination or a crime of love. And headline number 4, Trump facing another lawsuit. Jeff, your choice, sir.
Let's go to trans indoctrination.
Trans indoctrination or a crime of love. Here we're traveling to Nashville for this one. A hardcore band by the name of Lorana has recently announced that they have had to fire their vocalist, Diego. Now, why was Diego parted from the band? Because Diego had amorous intentions towards the girlfriend of the band's guitarist. So Diego hatched a clever scheme to turn the band's guitarist that goes by the name Six into a lady. Yep, like Aerosmith, dude looks like a lady. What was Diego doing? Diego works at a health club during the day, and when Six would come in to work out, Diego would supply Six with estrogen-laced workout shakes. For 5 months, Diego was dosing Six with estrogen in order to make him look more feminine, so then he would be more masculine and steal the girlfriend. The only reason the band found out is Diego got a little bit too drunk one night and then spilled the beans. Otherwise, they would never know. Yeah, I know. Clever. Yeah, like I have a solution. Right. I'm gonna turn the guy into a girl.
Looks like a lady.
Yeah. All right. Your next choice, sir. Christmas, now the one holiday this woman hates. We're ruining the word dynamic, or Trump faces another lawsuit.
Let's hear about the other lawsuit.
Trump possibly facing another lawsuit. You may be familiar with those red-soled shoes, the Christian Louboutin. They are high-priced red-soled shoes, but now with Trump's never surrender high tops, that red sole may face a copyright charge
over the color of a soul.
Yeah, now the Louboutin has not filed a lawsuit yet, but people are wondering in part because there is a trademark here in America where the color red appearing in the design representing a stylized red sole shoe. There are some other things about a lacquered sole and things like that that may keep Trump away from it, but you know how people like to sue Trump. So, yeah, we may see another one. Alrighty, Blake.
I'm going to remember that when you're like, he's been sued 3 times.
I know, it is, and he does. He gets sued a lot, and not always his fault. He's an easy target sometimes. Okay, Blake, your final choice this morning. Christmas, now the one holiday this woman hates, or we are ruining the word dynamic.
Ruining the word dynamic for $1,000.
We are absolutely ruining the word dynamic, and this is coming to us from fast food giant Wendy's. Wendy's is saying they are starting a brand new pricing system that they call dynamic. I call it BS. They call it also surge pricing. They're telling you that based on the time of the day, they're going to charge you more for the food they already have.
Way.
Yes. Now, obviously, they're saying it is because, at these soft times of the day, we are going to lower menu prices. And if you believe that one, I have a bridge for you. They are going to raise the prices on us when everybody's hungry. But they say it's dynamic already.
Yes, it's dynamic.
It's like, it reminds me of those like little lib coffee shops are like, pay what you want.
Yeah.
No one ever paid anything.
I like free. Free is my choice. Thank you so much, Blake. That is the end of You Choose the News.
Oh, we've got a lot to cover. We interviewed Nikki Haley yesterday. We're going to play that when we come back. You're not going to want to miss it. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm kind of counting on that.
We are a lot of news, although coffee will not be necessary after this headline hits you in the face. Representative Lauren Boebert's son, Tyler, arrested, faces 22 charges after alleged thefts, including 5 felony charges, 4 for criminal possession of ID documents with multiple victims, 1 conspiracy to commit charge. This reads a lot more like an organized crime outfit than youthful indiscretions, So we're taking your calls and texts on that. Is it time for Lauren to step aside in light of this? And at what point does she have to? I mean, really? How
does this go forward? And
it's pretty rough.
And what advice would you give her? If you're sitting down, you've got 5 minutes. It is no cameras, no microphones around. You've got 5 minutes, 10 minutes with her. What's the advice that you would give her? Because this has got to be difficult, just having the empathy of putting yourself into that situation. Imagine what is going on both in her mind and her heart this morning. This is difficult. I have so much empathy and sympathy for what she is facing at this point. What advice do you give her?
Great question. Thanks, Bill. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. Let's get to the news with Blake Olson.
I would say take accountability. The left does not take accountability. We do on the right. I'm going to step aside, do the right thing, take care of my family, and show you how it's done. And that's what Joe Biden did not do. All right, there's my rant.
Nice one.
17 and sunny in Denver. The warm-up starts in about 2 hours. Expecting highs in the low 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, as you just heard the guys talk about it, 19-year-old Tyler Boebert, 22 charges, including several felony charges relating to a string of crimes. And 4 counts criminal possession of a financial device, 4 counts of criminal possession of ID documents, and also a count of conspiracy to commit a felony, and much more. They'll be talking about that throughout the morning. Former President Trump opens up another can on Nikki Haley in Michigan and takes roughly 2/3 of the GOP vote. Haley was in Denver at Wings Over the Rockies on Tuesday, and Jeff Hunt caught up with her. We'll hear from that interview coming up. We'll hear from her as Jeff talked to her. The Colorado National Guard is activated and trying to help protect next week's election. Governor Polis issued an executive order Tuesday, and he's calling for 6 to 9 members from a special team to provide cybersecurity for the presidential primary for up to 30 days. Now, President Biden is headed to the southern border on Thursday. He'll be in Brownsville. Monica Weisberg Stewart from the Texas Border Coalition hopes seeing is believing and something will be done.
One thing is to talk about it. Another thing is to actually see it and understand the urgency of action.
Yeah, the problem is he and his administration created it on purpose, and they could close it down tonight if they wanted to. Former President Trump will be at Eagle Pass on Thursday also, actually looking at the issue and hearing from supporters who are ready for the madness to end. Now, speaking of the madness to end, hoping it will end, New York's mayor, Eric Adams, guess what? He's ready to change the laws that make New York a sanctuary city.
This after migrants have been identified as suspects in several high-profile crimes. Adams says he wants to change when the city can cooperate with federal ICE agents and begin deportations. Current city law forbids that unless an immigrant is convicted of a serious or violent crime. Adams wants to be able to call ICE on people only suspected of crimes. Adams' comments have already sparked criticism from city council members and the Legal Aid Society. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Hey, guess what? It's another special day today.
It's National Chocolate Souffle Day, and it's not nearly as difficult as it sounds. 4 ingredients mixed separately, then together, and into the oven for 10 minutes. That's where the magic happens. The souffle rises and becomes among the best things you'll ever eat. But if it doesn't rise, Julia Child says you can still serve it. Just call it French pudding. I'm Bree Tennis.
Oh, I just love Julia Childs. CSU falls to Nevada. Oh, man, she was awesome. See, that's a good movie also.
Oh, yeah.
CSU falls to Nevada 77-74. Last night, lost to 4 of their last 5, man. They're running out of time.
Yeah, that was a tough one last night, too. I listened to a little bit of this.
No doubt. Great team. They're going to take 6 more than likely from the Mountain West Conference, but the Rams need to probably win their next 2.
Yeah,
if they want to get in the tourney, we'll see. CU goes for 3 straight tonight. They take on Cal in Boulder. The Nuggets in action tonight against the Kings and trying to win their 4th straight. And the Avs over the Stars last night 5-1. Let's see, it is 15 in Englewood and 13 in Broomfield. And what is it, 17 or 9? It's cold out there in Denver.
That's great.
Blake and Bill. Yep, Blake and Bill and Jeff and Bill continue right now on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, so Nikki Haley held a rally here in Denver, Colorado yesterday, and about 800 people showed up, a lot of energy and excitement. We were able to get an interview with her. I got 10 minutes with her. The minute she walked off stage, we're going to play that in just a second. Here's from the Denver Gazette. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley said Tuesday at a campaign rally in Colorado that Republicans can only reverse the setbacks the party has suffered in the state by breaking Donald Trump's grip on the GOP. 3 days after losing her home state primary 60% to 40% to Trump, and a week before ballots were due, Haley rallied about 800 of her supporters inside the wings of the Rockies Exploration of Flight Museum at Centennial Airport. Haley, the lone remaining challenger to Trump in Colorado's March 5th presidential primary, told the crowd that Republicans in Michigan and Minnesota, other traditionally competitive states where she recently campaigned, have likewise lost power across the board since Trump won the presidency in 2016. This is very similar to what she said to us. She's making the claim, she's making the critique that things haven't been so great for the Republican Party in elections in Georgia, for instance, those types of examples, since Trump has become the dominating factor in there. So we got 10 minutes with her. The minute she walked off the stage, she gave us a call. Here is that interview. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. Here's Nikki Haley. First of all, congratulations, fresh off the rally stage. How was it? How were you received? How was the energy in the room?
We had a great crowd, a great time, and a lot of good energy in the room. It's great to be here in Denver. We're excited about that. We started the day in Minnesota. We'll finish the day in Utah. And so it's anywhere and everywhere.
Oh my gosh. I remember this. I worked for Governor Romney when he ran for president. I was his coalitions director in Colorado. So I remember it all over the place. You guys are going all the time. So tell us what brought you to Colorado. What was the campaign strategy? What was the thinking behind coming to Colorado?
We have a country to save. I mean, this is about trying to hit as many states as we can and make sure that they know that they have a choice. You know, in a general election, we're given a choice, but in a primary, you make your choice. And this is the opportunity for us to realize that we can either choose more of the same or we can chart a new direction. More of the same is Joe Biden and Donald Trump, but going in a new direction, that's a new generational leader that can put the negativity and baggage behind and focus on the solutions of the future. And that's what I think we need to do going forward. You look at the chaos surrounding both of them. There's nothing normal about the fact that Joe Biden has millions of illegal immigrants coming into our country and doing nothing to stop them. There's nothing normal about the fact that he focuses more on gendered pronouns than whether the kids can actually read them. There's nothing normal about the fact that he calls his opponents fascist. But then you look at the same thing with Donald Trump. There's nothing normal about spending $60 million in campaign contributions on your personal court cases. There's nothing normal about the fact that he mocks the military. There's nothing normal about the fact that he sides with Putin over our allies that stood with us at 9/11. It's a problem. And so the focus is, how do we get things back on track? The way we get things back on track is we have to win a general election. And that's at the heart of it. I voted for Donald Trump twice. I was proud to serve America in his administration. But poll after poll, and you can look at the Marquette poll most recently last week, Donald Trump and Joe Biden are margin of error. Usually Donald Trump's down by 3, down by 5, down by 7. In that same Marquette poll, I defeat Joe Biden by 18 points. That's bigger than the presidency. That's House, that's Senate, that's school boards. But more than that, that's a mandate going into D.C. to stop the wasteful spending and get our economy back on track. That's a mandate to get our kids reading again and go back to the basics in education. That's a mandate to secure our borders with no more excuses. That's a mandate to bring law and order back to our city. And that's a mandate for a strong America that prevents war that we can all be proud of. That's what this is all about, is the fact that we can have the best ideas in the world, but if we can't win a general election, we're going to watch what's happened to Michigan, to Minnesota, to Colorado, and to so many states across the country again. Because with Donald Trump, we continue to lose. We lost in 2018. We lost in 2020. We lost in 2022. I was in Minnesota. Since Donald Trump was president, they lost the governor's mansion. They lost the state house. They lost the state senate. Same thing in Michigan. You come to Colorado, no Republican has won the state with more than 45% of the vote since Donald Trump was president. He's pushed more people out of the party than bring them in. There are 10% less Republicans now in Colorado than there were before he was president. And that's the problem. And you look at the early states, he didn't get 40% of the Republican primary vote in any of the early states. That's a red flag. That's a sign.
We're talking with Nikki Haley, candidate for president, Ambassador Nikki Haley, candidate for president here in Colorado. She's just fresh off of a campaign rally that she came here. She's heading to other states as well. I know the early states have been a challenge. Is that message connecting, you think? Do you think that voters are starting to turn a little bit and connect with your message? Is that the campaign plan moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, look, what we're talking about, and I've told everybody, I'm not doing this for a political career aspect. I think I've made that very clear. I'm doing this for my kids and everybody else's kids. I mean, look at the younger generation and what they've gone through. They went through COVID. Now they see this $34 trillion in debt. They wonder what that means for them. They look at the fact that they're worried about whether they're going to be able to get a job, whether they're going to make ends meet, whether they will ever be able to own a home. They wonder if war is going to break out. And then we wonder why there's so much stress, anxiety, and depression. And then they're all living under this tent of anger and hatred and division. We can do better than that. All of that anger, hatred, and division came from Donald Trump and Joe Biden. We could have a country. I mean, just imagine a country where we could sit down at the dinner table and not have a political fight with our family. Just imagine going to work and being able to say what you think and not worrying about being demoted. Just imagine a country where we could strongly disagree and we don't have to hate each other. Because all our kids are seeing is anger, hatred, and division, and none of that is normal. And they deserve to know what normal feels like.
We're talking with Ambassador Haley, candidate for president. Now, Colorado's unique. Votes for Donald Trump may not count in this primary. We haven't heard from the U.S. Supreme Court yet. So if those don't count, could Colorado be the first state that you're winning in the campaign?
Look, we're fighting hard for every state. I will tell you personally, I hope that they don't take him off the ballot. I think that's a bad precedent. We don't want to start letting, states decide who can and who can't be on the ballot. I think that's not a good thing. I think we always want voters to decide. We want to give them the power to decide who they vote for and who they don't. So that's my thought on that. And look, I'm happy to try and defeat him fair and square. I think that's the name of the game, and that's what we should try and do. And I think that at the end of the day, let the people vote, let them have their voices heard. We are blessed to live in America where we can do that. I know Trump's had the RNC name him the nominee, but, we don't live in Russia. We don't anoint kings in America. We have a democracy and we're blessed to have it. We want everybody in Colorado to be able to vote.
Colorado's dealing with an illegal immigration surge, 40,000 illegal immigrants in Denver, the city of Denver having to spend over $100 million on those services, cutting them from taxpayers. What is your message? This is a big deal in Colorado. What's your message on illegal immigration?
This is a huge deal around our country. I can't believe we would be allowing this. I mean, the fact that Denver's spending $3.5 million per week on illegal immigrants is unthinkable. You know, when I was governor of South Carolina, we passed the toughest illegal immigration law in the country. President Obama sued us over it, and we won. I want to take what we did in South Carolina and go national with it. We want a national E-Verify program where businesses have to prove that the people they hire are in this country legally. We want to defund sanctuary cities once and for all, so there's no more safe havens for illegal immigrants. We want to put 25,000 Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. We want to go back to the Remain in Mexico policy so that no one steps foot on U.S. soil. And instead of catch and release, we want to go to catch and deport. That's exactly what we need to do to stop the border. But look at what happened last week. Last week, Congress had a border bill. And in that border bill, it had much stronger asylum laws, which we have to have. 3 million illegal immigrants came into this country under the Trump administration because the asylum laws weren't strong enough. But the weak parts about that bill was it didn't have Remain in Mexico. We have to have that. And it had a 5,000 person threshold. We shouldn't even have a 1 person threshold. We shouldn't allow any illegal immigrants to come in. But what should have happened is Congress should have gotten into a room and done whatever it takes to strengthen it and not left until they did that. But Donald Trump went and told Republicans, don't pass anything until after the general election, because he said it would hurt it. We can't wait one more day to pass a strong border bill. Congress needs to get in a room, figure it out, and pass something. And Donald Trump needs to stay out of it. This is not about him. This is about the safety of Americans.
Ambassador Nikki Haley, one final question. We got a lot of good people of goodwill, strong faith. How can they be praying for you?
You know, I will say pray for strength and pray for clarity. That's what's most important. I think right now it's about going forward. It's about making sure that we continue to have the clarity to fight and to make sure that we're communicating how we can, you know, we have a country to save and that our kids and grandkids deserve to know a country that's at peace. They deserve to know a country where they can have hope and energy and faith in the fact that we do live in the best country in the world. And I don't want to see it go to the wayside. I don't want us to lose all the values that made this country so great. And we have an opportunity. We're in a sinking ship with a hole. We can either go down with the ship with Donald Trump, or we can take the life raft. I'm giving you the life raft. I need the people of Colorado to go out and vote and make sure that we can start to make the corrections we need to see in our country.
Ambassador Haley, I know you've got a lot to get to. Thank you so much for your time. NikkiHaley.com is her website. You can learn more about her there. We really appreciate you taking a few moments to be with us.
Thanks so much. God bless you.
God bless you too. So that was Nikki Haley, fresh off the campaign stage yesterday at a rally here in Colorado.
Now I was not part of the conversation.
I did not let Bill speak.
No, it was not.
I muzzled him.
Yeah, there's a restraining order and some things that I'm not allowed to speak to political candidates in those type of situations. So until that whole thing has been adjudicated and rectified, then no, I can't. No, I had some other stuff going on, but I love the fact that she was able to sit down and take the time because she was so busy yesterday, and I loved that final question, and I really liked her answer on immigration. She not only just had the broad understanding of it, but she said, here's the plan. 1, 2, 3, and this is how we're going to do it. And she took some stuff from Trump. She took some other stuff on her own. She took some stuff that sits close to my heart about the verifying things that I really like. That was a nice conversation.
So Nikki Haley will absolutely appeal to suburban college-educated women.
Oh, yeah.
That interview right there, as I'm listening to it again after yesterday, goes, who does that appeal to? It appeals to Douglas County, Arapahoe County, Jefferson County, suburban women, right? It's and a set of Republicans that are nowhere near influence right now when it comes to the Republican Party of Colorado. And it's that kind of Cherry Hills, old school Bush fans, that
Bush,
type of
that's
thing.
a great way to put it, is the Bush.
Right?
The idea of the Bush family.
Yeah. So that's who they're going to appeal to. We didn't have a time to get into some of the other core issues, which were, the primary reason that I think Republican voters are supporting Donald Trump right now is they want a direct attack. And nowadays you have to be like, not with violence, but they want somebody to go after a corrupt federal government. And Nikki is not making that the center point of her campaign. She's calling us back to kind of those Bush days, Reagan, McCain.
Yeah. And I find it interesting.
Republican Party.
I find it very interesting. And I hear that a lot. The idea that Donald Trump speaks to me and he fights for me, that he's a fighter. Right. And I always find that interesting because I've never been convinced about supporting someone just because they're the fighter. And this is the reason. I'm much, much more concerned about what fights they're taking. And the example I would say is that while Donald Trump's a fighter, I do think at times he takes on the mantle of Don Quixote and he charges at windmills saying they're dragons. And I have kind of that issue that, he's a fighter, but is he fighting ghosts? Is he fighting imaginary things that don't exist? And that doesn't help. We've all seen those guys wandering down the 16th Street Mall that are in their own world, doing their own thing. And there are times that's what I see too. I see this alternate reality. So I'm not sold on the fact that just the pure fighter is the person that I want.
Right.
Yeah.
So what did you think of it? Was it an appealing message? So I want you to be a little independent here, because I know our audience base is very pro-Trump, and I voted for Trump. And while I appreciate what she said, I'm still going to vote for Donald Trump. But just taking that hat off and listening to what she had to say, did she make a compelling argument for somebody that can easily defeat Joe Biden? That was her first comment there, right? Donald Trump is within margin of error. I easily win. So if you go with Donald Trump, it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a slugfest all the way through November. You go with me, we cruise, and we have a Republican back in the White House. It may not be as elbow throwing and as sharp-tongued as you want, but you got a Republican back in the White House. Okay, that's her argument number one. Two, did the appeal to moving away from the contentiousness, that idea of having dinner again and the Thanksgiving dinner, she mentioned that, right? We want to get to a place where we're not so divided. Did that appeal to you? And then third question I have is, did the immigration solution appeal to you? Some of the text messages believe she wasn't very fair to Trump on that stuff. But did you like her ideas on dealing with illegal immigration? The reason I asked that question is I think if the election were held today, I think Republicans would win because that is the top issue for the nation to deal with right now.
I think you're absolutely right. Issue. I think you're absolutely right that immigration is the top line issue. I think that given your experience and background, you have sussed that out absolutely correct. That is the number one top line issue, which is why we've all of a sudden seen the Biden administration pay attention to it.
Joe Biden's going to the border.
Yes, all of a sudden they're like, what, border? Really? You mean we have a southern border? Oh, that's surprised. Okay, Kamala was excited to find that out too. New vacation spots for her. The other part is the question that I've got. I like the idea when you're talking about the first question with Nikki, and she highlights how, again, the broad polls, we can all disagree or agree on polls, but they are decent snapshots in time, if not a little bit inaccurate. But they all show that she is a slam dunk winner over Biden, where it becomes a coin flip between Trump and Biden. And I like your question that if we take the emotion out of it, you're in Vegas. You've got $10,000. You've got $50,000. You can put it down on Nikki Haley, knowing it's a sure bet to beat Biden. Or do you take the 50-50 proposition with Trump-Biden? What do you take if you were going to bet? If you want that White House, you have the $50,000 in your hand. You have what the electorate is telling you is the sure thing in Haley, or you take the 50-50. And understand that your percentage of winning is going to be minimal difference. There's going to be some stuff Trump's going to accomplish that Nikki will not. She may be able to do some stuff that you're not happy with, but you get everything you want with Trump, but it's a 50-50 shot. Do you take that bet? I'm not a betting person. I take the sure thing. That's where I put my money.
That is a great question, Bill. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. The lines are open. We would want to talk to you about this interview with Nikki Haley. Did she sway you? Are you ready to go? And to Bill's question, it's a sure thing, according to these polls, that Nikki Haley could be president and beat Joe Biden. It's a 50-50 flip between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. What do you do? Look forward to your calls and responses. Listen, friends, your home is a significant asset, and choosing the right team to help you sell it can be the difference in thousands of dollars in your pocket. I highly recommend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team, the realtors I trust. Empower Home team provides exceptional service, invaluable advice, and employs unique systems to maximize the money you can get for your home. Getting an offer above your home's asking price is great, but you're leaving money on the table by not working with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Gay and her experts get their clients an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Their exclusive database is filled with pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team today. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD. Or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. Text messages pouring in, and we love it. Nikki will be a John McCain thumbs down president. I'm a hard pass. 6801. By the way, tell us where you're from when you're texting. Nikki is doing the same thing these Democrats have done. And yes, we will vote like a democracy, but we are a constitutional republic. Also, in that fake immigration bill was ankle braces for all these illegal immigrants, which is easily cut off. I don't know if she knows that. Right now, 70% of her voting base is Democrats and unaffiliates. If Democrats can't vote for her in November, what do all those, I'm not sure how that text ended there. Sometimes autocorrect isn't our friends.
Oh, not at all.
Nikki is the only chance at Republicans winning the office. I hope there's some miracle and she becomes the nominee. Donald Trump is trash. 8505.
Interesting.
I don't understand why we idolize people that have power over us, like Trump or any other politician.
That's an interesting point. I'd love to have that conversation longer. It might not be for today, but that would be really interesting, because there are times I feel that we use our politicians to supplant other people in our lives that could be filled with, the familiar relationships, friends, mentors, and especially religion. I feel sometimes we use it to replace that.
Michigan, Trump, 68%. Whatever you think, Nikki is not a lifeboat. She is a garbage barge to the past.
Oh, wow.
Not a lifeboat.
That's interesting.
I think she's just a little dinghy.
That's nicely done. Nice turn of phrase. I would love to have you call in, because one of the things, now I talked to Mary a little bit off air, and she was talking about how many numbers of Democrats and or unaffiliated independents crossing over in order to inflate Nikki's numbers to make her look better. I think the other question, though, and this is one of those that if I had the time, I would have loved to ask Nikki Haley about the media narrative, that she did lose her state of South Carolina, but she polled, just a hair below 40%. If Joe Biden goes into any state and the other candidate gets 40%, the media the next day is playing taps and saying his candidacy is done.
Yep.
Trump's running as a functional incumbent. The idea that even though she's pulling these small numbers, the idea that she's pulling those numbers is significant. It may not mean that Donald Trump can't win, but it is significant, and it needs to be paid attention to.
I feel like she would be easily manipulated. This is another text message. That's why she has such a strong financial backing that's helping her hang in there. Mitt Romney light.
Ooh,
Mitt Romney light.
Wow, light. That's I like the descriptor of light. That's an interesting one, because I could see the institutionalized Republican and the Mitt Romney comparison with the light. Oh, that takes another level. That's an interesting thought.
Nebraska here. Nikki Haley is a very good speaker, but if she didn't have the backing of the Democrat Party, you'd have to ask yourself why a vote for her would be a vote against Donald Trump. She's nothing but another Les Cheney. I think she can't. I don't think she can win. I wouldn't take Bill's bet. Thank you, Nebraska. Instead of running against Trump, she should be running against Biden so we could get a glimpse of what the general election would look like. Very interesting. Yep, they're still kind of in a primary there. Charlie Kirk thinks Nikki is setting up to run on a new labels party. Yeah, if those people that Nikki Haley appeals to, the kind of suburban housewives, the kind of old guard Republican Party, would go for a third party label, I think that would tank the Republicans' options this fall, which is not good. We should not be having these third parties in there.
Here's an idea.
I'm not even sure that Robert F. Kennedy is good for Republicans. I actually think that you may have some people that Joe Biden supporters are so anti-Trump. That's what they're motivated for, right? Like, nobody's like, hey, Joe Biden's a great president.
Yeah. Nobody's walking around wearing Biden shoes or Biden hats.
Right, exactly.
Nobody's got those. I don't see
There's
those
no
anywhere.
merch for Joe
None.
Biden.
Yeah.
So they're all anti-Trump. And if you take independent thinkers like towards a Robert F. Kennedy, I don't want to support either of the parties. That hurts Donald Trump. That doesn't hurt Joe Biden. All right, we're going to get to the calls in just a second. And all these text messages pouring in. We do have one line open. We get to Dwayne and Frank in just a second. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us what you thought of that Nikki Haley interview on the 710 KNUS app. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier. Here are the top stories we're following. A man facing the death penalty is pleading his innocence with just hours until his scheduled execution. 50-year-old Ivan Cantu is set to become the first case of capital punishment this year in Texas. Benji Heyer reports from Austin.
It's a complicated story. Mr. Cantu denies committing a double murder that landed him on death row more than 2 decades ago. There was no physical evidence proving he was at the crime scene, yet his clothes had the victim's blood on them. On Tuesday, a Texas court rejected his latest appeal. That's despite calls led by celebrity Kim Kardashian to save his life. It's doubtful we'll ever know the truth of what happened in 2000, certainly not before the state administers the lethal dosage on Wednesday evening. In Austin, Texas, Benji Heyer for Salem News Channel.
President Joe Biden easily won the Democratic presidential primary in Michigan, but angry Democrats protested his handling of the Israel-Hamas war. Michigan has the largest concentration of Arab Americans in the nation, and Democratic voters were urged to mark their ballots as uncommitted to protest the White House's handling of the situation in the Middle East. Former President Trump, meanwhile, won the state's Republican primary by a large margin, increasing his lead against Nikki Haley. This comes just a week before Super Tuesday on March 5th. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadier in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
Well, Denver's sharing their opinions, and we love you for it on the 710 KNUS app. Text messages just pouring in. I am never Trump. He not only lost the election, he did so destroying the Republican brand. My daughters will never vote for a Republican because of him.
Ouch.
Nikki Haley is a functioning adult, while Trump and Biden are not. Why does this debate not stop right there? Please get rid of the phrase suburban housewives.
Well, but it exists, and I understand the issue there, but it exists, and it is a demographic, fair or unfair.
They have shifted.
Yeah.
They used to be Republicans.
And it is one that you do need to target and talk to. So, yeah, but I understand the phrase.
Reference to Don Quixote is spot on. Thanks,
Hey,
Bill.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So if you missed, we did a 10-minute interview with Nikki Haley right as she got off stage, called in, and we'll play that again later in the show. But let's get to the phones. Frank Evergreen, you're on with Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Frank.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. My daughters will never vote for a Democrat thanks to Trump. They're going to vote for Republicans from now on. So touche, turtle.
There you go.
Here's the thing. The lying, cheating, stealing, baby killing Democrats are playing us. They're trying to play us. They're not playing me. They're playing you guys. Not Jeff so much, but they're playing a lot of people. They're never going to vote for Haley. Are you kidding me? They're just playing the game. It's the perfect reason why we should not allow anybody but Republicans to vote Republican primary and anybody but Democrats to vote Democrat primary.
Yeah, do you think those numbers are inflated? Nikki Haley's numbers, do you think those are Democrats coming across?
Well, that's the other funny thing. Everybody's an amateur statistician these days. As a person who graduated from college with a mathematics degree, I can tell you that statisticians first decide what the outcome is going to be, then they run their poll. And it's all about the sampling size and all that. And I won't get into it, but it's the whole thing. I just can't wait for it to be over and Trump be president again. I've been with him since day one. I'm going to stay with him. And, the funny thing is people don't get that the lying, cheating, stealing, baby killing Democrats are playing us. They're trying to play you. Like the fellow who called last week about after the Boebert interview, who I contribute to and I love, saying that she canceled that program. She didn't cancel that program. She voted against the stupid omnibus funding bill that the Democrats wanted for all their woke BS.
Yeah, but it was a fair critique that she voted against funding it and then taking credit for the idea that it was funded.
What you just said was fair. What the fellow who called said was not fair. She said she voted against that program.
Yeah.
That's not what she did.
Well, we got there now, Frank.
Frank,
what I want to let's go back. The thing is, what I want to tell you, what I want to ask you is this. Okay, you and I, we're in Vegas. I hand you $50,000, and I tell you, hey, put it down on the table here. What we know is, based on polling so far and the electorate, Nikki Haley is your sure bet to pay off that you've got the White House again, being a Republican. Donald Trump is a 50-50. Where are you putting your money down on that bet? What bet are you taking? Are you taking the 50-50 Trump, or are you taking the sure thing with Nikki in order to get the White House, if that's your goal?
You just misspoke, Billy, because it's not a sure thing with Nikki.
Yes, it is, sir.
Like
yes,
said,
Frank, yes, it is. With respect, the electorate says it is. And deal with my premise. The electorate says right now that Nikki Haley is the sure thing. She beats Biden. And so which one do you pick?
Correct. And like I said earlier, it's about the sampling population. It's about many factors that are not that the politicians and pollsters face.
Frank, I understand that. Wait, Frank, hang on a sec. Frank, hang on. You're avoiding the question. I worked for a market research company. I don't have the mathematical experience you have, but I have experience understanding, and you're right about how the polls are shaped. You are correct, but that applies to individual polls. When we have a number of polls that are run by different organizations, we can step back and look at the larger picture. That's why in radio ratings, day-to-day ratings are irrelevant. But when you pull back to 3 to 6 months, you've got a good snapshot. And I'm talking to the snapshot in the polling, even though individual polls are inaccurate. The grand scheme, the larger picture in the polling says Nikki's a sure thing. Do you take the bet?
Okay, Billy, when you I'm sure you know logic too. So when the premise is false, then any answer after that can be true or false.
Okay, so you reject the premise. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
you reject the premise, and you reject the premise of all the polls. So, and that also would mean you reject the premise showing the polls that Donald Trump is such a weak candidate, that you believe something else.
If you ask my personal opinion, I believe Trump will be president.
Did you believe? Okay, fair. Did you think Trump was going to be president in 2020?
You know, let's see. One of my friends told me I didn't believe back then, but I don't remember that. I thought I did believe, but he said no, I was doubtful, and he may have been right. I don't know. But I'm very happy he became president because he was a fantastic president and be president.
Well, no, I asked about 2020 though. Did you feel Donald Trump was going to get a second term? Yeah.
I don't remember exactly, to be honest with you. It was so outrageous to me to think he wouldn't. I guess that I guess I was pretty baffled.
And the only thing that I'll tell you then is maybe take that into consideration when you were so certain last time around in 2020 that he was going to, and that he didn't. He lost, and so maybe coming into it, maybe your impression of the polls is incorrect.
I wake up every morning in fear, and I say to myself, "What am I going to do if he loses?" I guess what I'm going to do is all I can do is stop paying attention and like everybody else and not care.
Ooh, is that the best choice?
That is something I've noticed about the right, is that when we get frustrated, we like kind of disappear, and then the left, they like rally up. They're like, more money, more fighting. We got to take it back. And
they go as far as they knit cute little hats and then march down the streets. Yeah, they do a lot of weird
stuff. I
stuff.
appreciate the call. Frank from Evergreen. His line's open 303-696-1971. Let's go to Dwayne and Divide. Dwayne, and you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Dwayne.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Once again, we look and see about polling. And if I remember correctly, in 2016, Hillary was a lock.
She was the lock. That's right.
Well, and
Vegas had her as a lock, and everything was cool.
Let's add
it was
context.
going to be the glass ceiling was broken.
Hold on,
and
Dwayne.
She shredded a big TV.
Yes, she did. But Dwayne, hang on. Context. The context there. The polls were correct. Hillary Clinton got more votes. She won the popular vote. So she did not win the Electoral College. You're correct. The polling failed in certain areas, and in large part too also because of Hillary's awful tail end of her political game at the end of that run. But I have a hard time criticizing the polls as a whole when they said Hillary Clinton was going to get more votes, and she did. And that's what they're telling us now. That even with those Electoral College wobbles that could happen and still put someone else into the White House, the polls are still telling us, just like they did back then, that Haley gets more votes.
Well, I also remember her husband, Bill, also never won the popular vote, but he was elected in twice.
Oh, yeah.
Polls are an interesting item.
Yeah, they are.
You can sit there and look at all these different things. The biggest problem that
Dwayne, I want to get the question I have for you is, let's go back to Nikki Haley real quick. Did you hear the interview?
I heard the interview.
What do you think of Nikki Haley?
Well, I think that if I wanted to deal with a pus-filled slime ball in a sea of pus, I'd listen to more of her. I don't care for her.
Why?
I find many things that she's done aberrant. The way that she finally left everything with the first term as ambassador and then went out and worked for every company. She made multi-million dollars working for the defense industry, which is her entire right to do so. But then she stands there and goes, well, I just want to be the best president. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see that. When her background is so tainted, you have to sit there and say, I hear what you're saying, but I look under the blanket and I don't like what I see.
Now, Dwayne, I got a question for you about the idea that Nikki, this is something that I find curious on the conservative side of the aisle, that the conservative side of the aisle are the ones that talk about how in your job and your role, go out there and get as much money as possible. But then in this realm, the fact that Nikki went out and got the big paycheck now is a negative. Would you have been happier if she went out and worked for a charity?
No, I'm glad that she went out and made millions. I'm glad for her.
Okay.
But then stand up and say
issue?
what she did. I stand up and say who you worked with and everything else and let the public decide. The reason why Republicans, well, she has in a lot of ways. She's avoided who she's worked for. Now she's made her money. and everything else. My biggest aggravation with the Republican Party is that we stand there and say, oh, this person's only going to stop abortion at 13 weeks. I'm not going to vote for him. And Nikki has no chance of winning. Please, I have a better shot of getting lucky next week by winning a lottery ticket and getting $2 back.
Wow.
She doesn't have a chance, but she's in there to destroy everything. And the Democrats are holding up a bag of,
Dwayne, she points that out during her interview that she kind of is taking a profit role, right? When I asked her, like a prophet crying out in the wilderness, I asked her about winning, like, what's the winning strategy? She totally dismissed it, right? Oh, first we're going to win Michigan, get some points here, and then we'll get some momentum, and we'll head to. No, there's none of that discussion. It was, I'm here using the bully pulpit to be a prophet crying out in the wilderness that we can have a better politics. And then we'll descend into Joe Biden, Donald Trump battle in November. Dwayne, I appreciate the call.
Wait.
Go ahead.
One quick thing, though. Okay, don't forget that Hillary and Obama in their first term running against each other, the reason why she stayed in is she said Kennedy got shot in '68 in September. Now,
did she say that?
Wow. She did say that.
I don't know.
Okay, so I mean, you have to sit there and take the quality of the person with it all. The thing is that the Republicans are sitting here beating themselves up. They're supporting the bag of rotten oatmeal right now. The Democrats are. Do you think Michelle's going to step up in the August?
No, I don't.
Who do you think is? I mean, do you think they're going to throw in Gavin?
I think I think Gavin.
No, I don't think they can. And the issue is this, and the only idea is this. I understand the idea that Biden is a tremendously weak candidate. The part of the conversation that is being left out is, I don't find any American voter would be okay with the party coming in and saying, here is your nominee. We have anointed them. Now bow down, genuflect. Now go out there and work for them. I even though the Democrats, how they coalesce around a candidate, I still think fundamentally, if their party came to them and said, this is the anointing, they would reject that person. And I think that's lost in this conversation, that somehow we believe that the Democrats are going to behave.
They're the ones that get the super delegates. They do they do that anointing all the time. Dwayne, thanks so much.
Thanks,
hey,
Dwayne.
imagine effortlessly gliding open your cabinets and drawers to reveal neatly arranged shelves that showcase your belongings. With roll-em-out shelves, you can easily access your pots, pans, and other essentials, eliminating chaos and increasing speed and functionality in your home. Roll-em-out shelves understands that every home storage needs are unique. Whether you're dealing with tight corners or expansive cabinets, your shelves will be custom built to maximize every inch of available space. Joyce and Brent Tolliver, the mom and son dynamic duo, leave satisfied customers wherever they go, and their all 5-star reviews confirm this. Here's what some overjoyed customers have said. We are so happy with our kitchen that now we're planning to do our bathroom as well. The quality of products are excellent. The quality of labor installation is outstanding. The customer service is surpassed. I absolutely recommend Roll-em-out Shelves. They are very good listeners, and they have great suggestions for cabinetry solutions. This is a top-notch company. Excellent product, excellent service, and installation. We had shelves installed in the laundry room and kitchen. Makes a world of difference in accessing items. I highly recommend them. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll-em-out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601. That's 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Tell them Jeff sent you. Rollemoutshelves.com. Surprise guest coming up at the top of the hour. Governor Scott Walker is joining us. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS. Talking about ruling the world, who would you choose to be the next president of the United States? Earlier, we talked with Nikki Haley. She joined Jeff right after the rally yesterday. Want to know, you're a betting man or woman, you're in Vegas. The polls say Nikki is the sure thing. Donald Trump's 50-50. If your goal is the White House, where do you put your money? Is Nikki really as weak as a candidate as some of the media narrative has led us to believe? If President Biden would lose 40% of a vote in any state to any one of his potential rivals, they'd be playing taps for him. Are we not seeing the narrative that maybe Donald Trump is a weaker candidate than some would hope? The other thing that we're covering this morning here on the Jeff and Bill Show is Lauren Boebert's son, Tyler, has been arrested, facing 22 charges. We're going to try to talk to a legal expert later today, but we have to see if a former host of the show is awake. Yes. So we're going to talk to him, but he's facing some very serious charges. This is not drunk and disorderly. This is not the idea of going out there and getting a speeding ticket. This isn't a curfew ticket. This isn't getting caught underage with alcohol. These are serious. Some of these are felonies, and it involves, looks like possessing and even possibly producing fake IDs. That's an interesting question. And then what advice would you have to Lauren running for office? If it was you, would you still be in the race, or would you pull out and talk to your family? We've got former Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker coming up. We are going to talk about who does he think Trump should have as the VP. Jeff and Bill, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Good Wednesday morning to you. 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this February 28th. Good morning, Bill.
Hey,
Great
good
to have
morning.
you all with us. We've got Scott Walker coming up here in just a second.
Yeah,
He's got a new op-ed out. This is kind of interesting. Who his pick
He's
for
really,
vice president should be.
He really needs to talk to his press people because this is, what is he doing? They understand what they've done here.
We're going to put him on the hot spot here on the Jeff and Bill show.
I think his press people doesn't like him or something. They make him mad that they agreed to this. All righty. This will be fun.
Really looking forward to hosting the governor. You saw him at the Western Conservative Summit in years past, so great to have him with us. Let's go to the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, that was a great tease. 20 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Colorado's Lauren Boebert, who was on with Jeff and Bill Tuesday, now dealing with more challenges. Her 19-year-old son, Tyler, arrested Tuesday, facing 22 charges, including several felony charges relating to a string of crimes. He's facing 1 count of conspiracy to commit a felony and 4 counts of criminal possession of a financial device and 4 counts of criminal possession of ID documents. Boebert is now running in CD4 after moving to Windsor from the Western Slope. Former President Trump takes roughly 2/3 of the vote and wins the Michigan primary, defeats Nikki Haley last night. Jeff spoke with Haley after she talked to supporters here in Denver at Wings Over the Rockies Tuesday.
But then you look at the same thing with Donald Trump. There's nothing normal about spending $60 million in campaign contributions on your personal court cases. There's nothing normal about the fact that he mocks the military. There's nothing normal about the fact that he sides with Putin over our allies that stood with us at 9/11. It's a problem. And so the focus is, how do we get things back on track? The way we get things back on track is we have to win a general election.
Haley said the border needs to be secure, no more sanctuary cities, and also said she doesn't agree with the Colorado Supreme Court attempting to keep former President Trump off the ballot.
Personally, I hope that they don't take him off the ballot. I think that's a bad precedent. We don't want to start letting, states decide who can and who can't be on the ballot. I think that's not a good thing. I think we always want voters to decide. We want to give them the power to decide who they vote for and who they don't.
President Biden and Trump will both be at the southern border manana. Last night, Biden with Seth Meyers, in case you missed it.
And I really mean this sincerely. I think it's about the future. And
yeah, it's the future.
Every single thing we've done. I think we've got some good things done.
Like open the border.
They told us we couldn't get them done because things were so divided. And but I think everything we've gotten done, he's just friendly stated he wants to do away with if he gets elected. And I really think his views on where to take America are older than, anyway. I'm not good.
You forgot.
I'm done.
That's how I end my day. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I did my
anyway. Show. Anyway, a fast-moving wildfire in the Texas Panhandle is now the second largest in Texas history. The Smokehouse Creek fire has burned 500,000 acres since Monday. The country's biggest nuclear weapons facility is about 20 miles away from the fire. Let's see, it's 18 in Parker, 19 in Lakewood, 20 in Denver. I don't know. I forgot.
It's cold.
Anyway, Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
I love this guy, our next guest. He spoke at the Western Conservative Summit in 2015. He's the president of Young America's Foundation and served as the 45th governor of Wisconsin. And I love him because when he was the governor of Wisconsin, do you remember all those crazy rallies and protests down at the state capitol? Because he was just trying to implement common sense changes into the state. The unions, the leftists, the radicals all went after him. He stood strong, delivered for his state. And I'm proud to have him on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, the former governor of Wisconsin, Scott Walker. Thanks so much for joining us, Scott.
Hey, good morning. Great to be with you.
So recent op-ed out. This was an interesting one in the Washington Times. Trump's next vice president should possibly be a governor, maybe Iowa's Kim Reynolds. Now, Governor Walker, in all of the bingo cards I got, Kim Reynolds never popped up.
Wasn't on mine either.
Give us the argument for Kim Reynolds.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure in a long time ago, about a century ago, Calvin Coolidge may not have pulled up on a lot of people's cards for Harding either, but he was a spectacular vice president and even better president after that. No, with President Trump, I think he needs to pick a governor. Now, the name frequently mentioned is Governor Kristi Noem. I love Kristi Noem. In fact, we brought her up to the Reagan Ranch. It's the group I run, Young America's Foundation. So I think she would be an excellent pick. But why I like Kim Reynolds is if you look just at what's been accomplished over the last few years, I don't think there's any governor in America that's done more, particularly in a competitive state, even probably arguably more than Ron DeSantis did in Florida. I mean, she did statewide massive historic tax cuts. She did statewide school choice. She did regulatory reform. The economy is humming. When things happened a few years ago during COVID, she was one of the first in the nation to push back and reopen the economy and force schools against the teachers union attacks to be open. She's fiscally conservative, but she's also socially conservative, signing some of the strongest pro-life legislation in the country. And she pushed back on boys competing in girls' sports. So she checks all the boxes. Probably equally, if more importantly, she's from the Midwest. And as you guys know, even though I was born in Colorado Springs, I'm now from Wisconsin. And in Wisconsin and Michigan, those two may be the key states to Donald Trump becoming not just the former, but the future president. And it's nice to have someone from the Midwest that people can respect. So there's a lot of things that she brings to the table.
Now, in 2016, Donald Trump picked Mike Pence in order to lock in and secure kind of a questioning evangelical vote, right? Is Donald Trump really going to support our values? Mike Pence brought a lot of kind of a solid foundation to that. And people are like, okay, I'm willing to pull the lever for him. You mentioned kind of the Midwest and her leadership of the state. Where in the general election, because this will be a general election debate at that point. Right. I think he's locked up evangelicals. I don't think Donald Trump has to worry too much about appealing to evangelicals. The Roe v. Wade decision really solidified that for evangelicals. So where do you think her appeal is? You mentioned her leadership. You mentioned the kind of Midwest and some of the issues. But for the general voter in America, what does Kim Reynolds, governor of Iowa, really appeal to for them?
Yeah, two things, and I think they're intertwined. If you look in 2022, 2 years ago, there was supposed to be a red wave. It didn't happen except governors. Republican governors were overwhelmingly reelected by big margins. In fact, Kim Reynolds not only got reelected, she flipped everything. Her entire congressional delegation is Republican for the first time since the 1950s. So Republican governors, proven problem solvers, won. And I think for suburban voters, for younger voters, for voters when we need to make inroads in as conservatives, having someone on the ticket that can not only say her record, but look and say, Donald Trump's a proven problem solver. He got things done. You may not like the way he tweets. You may not like the way he talks sometimes. But if you look at what he's done, it's been positive and affirmational for the American people. I think someone who's a proven problem solver can do that. Secondly, I think that makes that huge appeal when people have to look at Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and look at their incompetence, their inability to be president, compared to Donald Trump and someone like Kim Reynolds can say, hey, Kim Reynolds is ready. If God forbid something were to happen, like what happened with Calvin Coolidge, she could step in. You're not going to say that about Kamala Harris.
I know. It's like
it would be awesome.
That was the Biden campaign's greatest insurance policy ever. Was to put a totally incompetent vice president.
Will never be invoked.
Right.
Exactly.
So, but in the past, the pick for vice president as a governor, as you can debate Palin. So let's dive into Palin here. In some cases, in rooms that I was in, she fired up. I remember being at the RNC convention in 2008, and she brought a tremendous amount of energy and excitement. And she was relatively unknown. And then as she got forced into the spotlight, things unraveled a little bit for the McCain-Palin campaign. Do you think that Iowa's Kim Reynolds can withstand the pressure she would get, especially as Donald Trump's running mate?
Yes, and I think there's a huge difference. I like Sarah Palin. I like what she brought to the ticket back then, but she was 2 years into her first term as a governor of a state that nobody heard about. Kim Reynolds has been the chair of the Republican Governors Association. She gave, remember 2 years ago, the response to President Biden's State of the Union address. She did it well. She's just so nice that people don't often think about her because she's not in the rough and tumble. But I think she's an excellent counter to Donald Trump in the sense that nobody in the base needs to be excited about Donald Trump. They're there. Yeah. And she is a rock solid conservative. So it's not like you're putting somebody squishy on. But I think there's a lot of voters out there, particularly suburban voters, a lot of women who will say, you know, I don't quite know if I'm ready. I don't like Biden. I think he screwed up the economy. I'm worried about the border, but I'm a little uncomfortable. You put someone like her on and you're like, kind of like what happened, like you said, 8 years ago, where not only evangelicals, but I think a lot of other voters said, hey, that's a reasonable choice. That's a competent person. I could see that person being effective in the administration. I think that's what Kim Reynolds brings to the table. And whether it's Kim or Kristi Noem or somebody else, I think that's really, really key at a time when people are talking about age. Although, you know, obviously Donald Trump, not that far behind in age, but mentally is years ahead of Joe Biden. Yeah. But still, when they're thinking about it, they want to know, is this person competent to play a key role if not having to step in? I just don't see that with Kamala Harris. So putting someone who's a proven problem solver, who's gotten the job done and who's been there for some time, not just 2 years, I think is really an effective pick.
We're talking with Scott Walker, president of Young America's Foundation, who served also as the 45th governor of Wisconsin. I think it's very clear that President Trump could also appeal to women through this vote by appointing a vice president who's the governor of Iowa, a female governor of Iowa. That's an area that he needs some help growing in, especially after the 2020 election. Go ahead, Bill.
Governor Walker, thanks for the time today. Now, this is an obvious question, but I do need to ask this. One of the primary things that is most important to Donald Trump is loyalty. And you know the governor stepped out and endorsed Scott Walker in his white go-go boots. How does that play in Trump world? Has she committed the cardinal sin that she now can't be brought back into the fold of the family?
Just to be clear, Ron DeSantis, I know what you meant, but not me in my boots, but Ron DeSantis, you're exactly right. Well, and obviously that's a factor out there. She campaigned with him in 2016. She campaigned with Donald Trump in 2020 because she's a governor and because she worked well with Ron DeSantis. She did support him during the caucus, and that will be a factor. But I think the fact that Ron DeSantis, when he got out, came on so strong, helped going into New Hampshire primary. I think that's I found as a guy who ran against Donald Trump as well 8-9 years ago, that when you're running against him, he doesn't like you. When you're helping him win, like I did in Wisconsin, suddenly you're best friends again. So he's able to get beyond that. And I think if he looked at something like this and said, hey, she can bring something to the table, which I didn't mention, but your point makes one more thing I think is positive. To win, my state, the difference 4 years ago was 23,000 votes. It's going to be that close again out of about 6 million people. He needs every Republican. People voted for Ron DeSantis. People voted for Nikki Haley. Donald Trump needs all of them plus a whole bunch of swing voters to win. So why not send a message that, hey, we're all together? I would have preferred you would have all been with me in the caucus and primary period, but I need every Republican, every leaning Republican, every conservative voter out there, plus a few more undecided voters to win. This, too, would be a powerful message.
That's interesting because you're talking about it being a bridge building, and then it allows that grace and that forgiveness. If you said, well, now that she spoke for DeSantis, she's now out of the party, you could extend the grace and the forgiveness and say, look, we're all one big happy family. That's interesting. I like that point.
Particularly because she's not a never Trumper. She wouldn't have campaigned with him in 16 and 20 and helped bring home Iowa, which years ago was a swing state. It's now become much more Republican. But I think that's the compelling message to people across the country, anyone listening, hey, in the end, we're all united. We do not want Joe Biden, Kamala Harris to ruin this country over the next 4 years. We've got to be focused on this.
Talking with Scott Walker, president of Young America's Foundation, which is the leading organization for young conservatives, helping students find support, promote conservatism, and take action. Let's change direction here and talk about the young vote. People engaged in college, high school, getting into the conservative movement. Give us an insight into where the next generation of young conservatives are at.
Well, they're under attack. There's no doubt about it. Sometimes people say, you mentioned introduction, all the attacks I had, 100,000 protesters, recall. And in a way, I feel like right at home working with college students, because they feel they may not have 100,000 protesters, but they feel like it. They feel like they're under attack. The truth is, though, there are actually more of them thinking the way we think than you'd think out there. We did polling before the first presidential primary debate. And interesting enough, not surprisingly, the majority of college students are not conservative, but they're not liberals either. The plurality, the top response for college students in our polling was moderate. And so a moderate on a college campus, someone identifying as moderate is probably open to being conservative. They're just afraid to say it out loud. And so that's why we go on the campus. We're the largest conservative speakers bureau out there. We broadcast all of our lectures online. We actually have a YouTube page, YF TV, that's got 1.6 million subscribers, and we just surpassed 1.25 billion views. So we're scaling up because the number one issue that college students said was top of mind, not just conservatives, but across the board, was the economy. And so we've got a ripe opportunity, and not only in the presidential race, but across the spectrum, to make a case to younger voters that conservatives, the people who believe in free market capitalism, who actually believe in entrepreneurship and economic freedom, we're the ones to move this nation forward. And young people, I think, are responding to it.
So YAF is the organization, YAF.org, Young America's Foundation. Here's some of the speakers that they have. So this is really important for college students, because those events bring people together and they create a moment on campus where conservative ideas are elevated. My wife and I both went to a relatively conservative Christian college, but she will tell you, as a political science major, she never heard the conservative movement until she went and interned for the Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C. She never really knew the conservative worldview. And so when you bring these speakers on campus, you're elevating, you're pointing right to this moment on a liberal college campus that this is what conservatives think. And there's a kind of rock star element to it. So listen to this. Ben Shapiro is a speaker with Young America's Foundation. Dana Lash, Governor Scott Walker. I'm going through your entire website here. Larry Elder, Liz Wielder, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, Mia Love. So you're bringing these people to campus and you're helping facilitate that. Governor Walker, we saw earlier this year the presidents of Harvard, the presidents of MIT, of Penn really face that direct confrontation for how bad leftist ideas have infiltrated the most elite universities. Do you expect these colleges at any point, at any time in the future, to change, or are they just dumping grounds of leftist thought?
They're not going to change. We have to change for them. And so if you're listening, if you're donating to your alma mater and they teach things that teach students to hate the values you share, stop giving them money. Whether you give it to YF.org or anybody else, but stop giving it there. If you're a state lawmaker or someone who works with the governor, wouldn't be the governor in Colorado, but elsewhere, make the case to state lawmakers and to governors across the country that, all this talk about academic freedom, they've used as a shield to protect them from any changes in the past. That's bogus. It's not academic freedom when, like 90+% of the professors aren't just Democrats, they're radicals. There's no intellectual diversity out there. So we have to keep pushing that. The reason that you saw at least some changes with those presidents wasn't because they wanted to. It wasn't because they intellectually realized the error of their ways. It was because at Penn, a donor withheld a $100 million contribution. So we need more of that out there. We need to push and expose this. The day that congressional hearing was going on, we had 3 of our student leaders, including one woman, Jasmine Jordan from the University of Iowa, who stood up and testified about how horrific it is to deal with abuse, not just from fellow students, but from professors and administrators. We like to say it, if you're under attack as a student, YAF's got your back. And again, if someone's listening and you're a student, yf.org. If you a parent or grandparent, get them to one of our conferences, get them a lecture on campus, get them to watch some of our stuff online. All it takes is a few voices, even in a time when people feel under siege, to make a difference.
Scott Walker, president of Young America's Foundation, who also served as the 45th governor of Wisconsin. You are exactly right on donating to your alma mater. So I worked for a university for 8 years. Many of these universities have huge endowments, and they are taken over by entirely radical Marxist type thinking. And anybody that wants to oppose that just remains quiet within the university. So stop giving these universities money where they are propagating this to the next generation to embrace Marxism. I encourage anybody, go out there and read just the first chapter of the Communist Manifesto, and it will sound like every college campus, all of history is a history between oppressors versus oppressed. It sounds like the opening, welcoming message at most colleges these days. So stop giving them money. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, so Governor Walker, you talked about how, in your view, not many of the college students aren't necessarily quite as liberal as we have been led to believe. I want to know, what do you think the messages are that are resonating, that are breaking through what we talk about being the indoctrination inside of the educational system? What messages are helping change those minds?
Yeah, two things we found universally across the spectrum amongst Generation Z, the college students and younger today, and that is they believe in fairness and they believe in authenticity. So when it comes to fairness, the left over the years has commandeered that. But to me, when someone says, "Oh, the rich and corporations should pay their fair share," well, they're paying that in some. So I personally, for example, push back on things like that and say, "Oh, great, let's all pay a flat tax. If you make 10 times more than me, you pay 10 times more in taxes." Well, that's not what the left wants. They just want more taxes. And so you got to turn things on their heel and push back on them. And when it comes to authenticity, one of the big things we found, for example, I mentioned our YouTube page, we don't do anything pre-prepared. Everything we broadcast is an interchange of ideas. You mentioned Ben Shapiro. He's really perfected this, and our other speakers follow it. He might come into a campus, say the University of Colorado or Colorado State or any other school around the country, come into a campus like that, speak, have an hour and a half set aside, but really only speak for about 30, 35 minutes. The rest of the time is taking questions. And where we perfected it, we allow people, he particularly does this, allows people who disagree with him to raise their hand and go to the front of the line. Well, most of the students who come are just curious. Most of the students who tune in are just curious. They hear the people with their hands up because those are the things they hear in class all the time from their communist Marxist professors. But then our speakers, people like Shapiro, just systematically knock these things down by speaking logically, by embracing fairness, by embracing authenticity, by having true exchanges that these students are just so hungry for. So if you're listening and you say there's a kid or a grandkid in your life, I tell people talk with them, but don't talk at them. Talk with them. Share your values. Share where things are important. If you started a business, tell how you did it. Young people today are hungry to hear more than just one side of the story.
Scott Walker, yesterday we spoke with Nikki Haley. She did an interview with us. She was campaigning here in the state of Colorado. Do you think it's time for Nikki Haley to withdraw and get behind and support Donald Trump?
I mean, everything was clear from the onset. Nikki Haley and I were governors at the same time. I think she did a great job as ambassador. I thought Ron DeSantis was a fabulous governor. But in the end, anybody who understands anything about politics knows that Donald Trump is going to be the nominee. And it's simple. It's because voters, not only in the primaries and caucuses, but I would say in swing states like mine, voters have had it with politicians who say all the right things when they campaign and then go to Washington and don't get things done. Donald Trump may not always talk the way certainly that we do in the Midwest and even elsewhere around the country, but he gets the job done. And I think anybody who's expecting something other than that to happen, I think it's just making a big mistake. Whether she gets out now or gets out in a month or two, in the end, the results are going to be the same.
Scott Walker, president of Young America's Foundation, who served as the 45th governor of Wisconsin. You can learn more about Young America's Foundation at YAF.org, doing wonderful work. I worked with them at Colorado Christian University Centennial Institute. Great organization to support, YAF.org. Just a few closing text messages here, Governor. Scott Walker, love this guy. Jeff and Bill, we love Scott Walker. There's a lot of support here in Colorado for you, Governor.
Well, like I said, I was born in Colorado. My dad was a pastor at First Baptist Church in Colorado Springs, so I love the mountains, even though I'm in a state that has a lot of water and hills but no mountains. But I always love coming back, and I was glad to hear that Casa Bonita is back open again, because as a kid, we would go there and I'd get scared and climb up on my dad's shoulders when the gorilla would come through.
Oh my God. Maybe we can send you a t-shirt. They've got t-shirts and stuff. Maybe we can send you one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Governor Scott,
good being with you guys.
Governor Scott Walker, new op-ed out. Trump's next vice president should be a governor. Iowa's Kim Reynolds would be a solid choice in Washington Times. Go to WashingtonTimes.com to read that op-ed there. Hey, guys, are you losing your hair and you need a simple solution that works? You want the best. Modern technology with top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. You need Dr. Tanya Pauls and her team at Advanced Hair. They've completely redefined hair restoration, from the experience itself to their unmatched results. Receding hairline, bald spot, thinning hair. Address them all with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment in a calm, relaxed environment with the most experienced professionals. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of these breakthrough treatments. And get this, your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. No one in Denver can offer anything like the Advanced FUE found at Advanced Hair, and I highly recommend their team. It starts with your free consultation. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll also get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Refine your hairline with the team that's redefined hair restoration. 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. Text messages coming in. Well said, Scott. As I said, as I mentioned previously, Scott Walker, love this guy. We hosted him at the 2015 Western Conservative Summit when he was running for president. That was quick. He had a quick presidential run.
He did. I like what he's doing with the kids in the schools. I think having him back to talk about those educational opportunities and what he's seeing on the campuses, because like him, I firmly believe that those young skulls of mush are not lost, that there is a tact there. But the idea of, I think I agree with him when he said that they're looking for the conversations, because that is what I see anecdotally in my own children. And they're just looking to have that conversation because they're looking for the knowledge. They're looking to, they know that what they've heard may or may not be right because they've encountered that before. But when you're only fed one narrative, it's hard to have that conversation. I love what he's doing.
So what you've probably seen these videos before. What they do is they bring in these major conservative speakers. The speech is only very quick. We brought them over to CCU one time with Michael Knowles. The speech is very quick, and then they bring up people to ask questions, right? Because it's this kind of Socratic method of engagement and asking questions and talking through. And their speakers are so good at this. Michael Knowles, Ben Shapiro, those types of guys. And then they allow the left to go first, and then you get all this great content, right? Especially this viral content but you just don't have those places in American culture where left, right engage directly, directly at each other. You have like angry Facebook comment places, and that's not helpful. But when you have actually left, right ideas confront each other with really smart conservatives, you end up with a really good conversation. But I will say this, it was kind of funny at CCU because they did that. They're like, all right, we're going to create lines here. And anyone who's a Democrat at Colorado Christian University, you get to go to the front of the line.
Oh, there's nobody.
There was nobody.
There's nobody.
It was a bunch of conservative kids being like, so let's talk a little bit more. So there wasn't that confrontation.
Would have to go to CU and bust them in order to get that get that cohort.
So what do you think about Scott Walker's recommendation? Iowa's Kim Reynolds. When he sent this to us, I was just like, Huh.
I
don't even know Iowa's Governor Kim Reynolds.
I think it makes a lot of sense for the structure that he put forward.
Yeah.
The issue for me is the loyalty. And I understand the idea of if Walker, if Kim Reynolds can show fealty, the idea of coming and kissing the ring and genuflecting in front of the chair, then maybe. But she has committed what in the Trump world is a cardinal sin.
Right.
She endorsed not only just the opponent, the big guy at the time, the one that was supposed to be the new Donald. And that's different. That's a different thing, because I believe that Trump used that as more of a personal attack than a political attack.
Right. And this is in 2016. This was an endorsement this cycle.
Yes, for this cycle to say that he shouldn't be there, and now to come in and say that you're part of the team. But I think that Walker is absolutely correct that it papers over a lot of the disagreements inside of the party if that happens. It gives a lot of those never Trumpers or people that are questioning whether or not they can flip that switch again for Trump. It gives them permission. It gives them psychological permission to say, okay, I don't like this guy, but because of the ticket, I can make that choice. And so strategically, I think he's right on.
Does Donald, I'd love to hear from the callers here. So give us a call on this, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Should Donald Trump's vice presidential pick be fully loyal to him and not have supported anybody else during this primary? Is that absolutely necessary for what Donald Trump wants to do? He's going to come into Washington, D.C., and we're going to throw some elbows. We're going at it. I need somebody that was with me all the time and isn't going to back away when the media pressure gets hard and resign or flounder or anything like that. All the way fully committed, or does this build a good bridge with the Ron DeSantis supporters and we got to move forward? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Or text us on the 710 KNUS app. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier. Here are the top stories we're following. Extremism is a top concern for voters ahead of the November presidential election. A new poll by Reuters and Ipsos showed 21% of respondents said political extremism or threats to democracy are the biggest problems facing the nation. An issue where voters feel President Joe Biden has an advantage over Donald Trump. The economy and immigration rank second and third among voter concerns. Democrats considered extremism by far the top issue, while Republicans overwhelmingly chose immigration. France is on the verge of enshrining abortion as a constitutional right. Lawmakers in the Assemblée Nationale passed a historic bill which now heads to the French Senate for its final legislative hurdle. Tony Waterman reports from Paris.
The bill overwhelmingly passed the National Assembly in January, but its fate in the Senate, which is majority conservative, is less certain. And on Monday, a French senator tabled an amendment to the bill that could actually send it back to the lower house, delaying the process. Other lawmakers have argued that the bill is completely unnecessary because abortion, they say, is not under threat in France, where women have had the right since 1975. The issue, though, has taken on new urgency after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned abortion rights in 2022, reversing 50 years of precedent.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadier in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
off and running today.
Here, I'm going to ruin this song for you. We're going to ruin this song for everybody right now.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now, this is the band Lit.
I don't even remember them.
Yeah. As the story goes, to get into the mood, to make sure that he could record it properly, lead singer here, he's buck naked in the studio.
Is he?
Yeah. I don't understand why, but they just said that, yeah, that in order to do it,
he feels free.
Yeah, exactly. He went,
no
he went totally unrestricted. And that's the story behind that. So every time you hear that song from now on.
Thank you for ruining that.
Naked Man. Alrighty. Sorry. Now back to our regularly scheduled program.
There you go. So we just hosted Scott Walker. He's got a new op-ed out in the Washington Times arguing that Trump's next vice president should be a governor and Iowa's Kim Reynolds would be a solid choice. And we all went,
yeah,
I don't know anything about her. So he helped enlighten us on that. And then we had a great conversation about young people on college campuses, what they're really hungry for and how conservatives can connect with them. So if you missed that, go to 710knus.com. Great conversation there at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. George Brauchler is going to join us to try to explain the 22 charges that Lauren Boebert's son, Tyler, is facing, what this means and why it's bad and all this. Because 5 felony charges, 4 for criminal possession of ID documents with multiple victims and 1 conspiracy to commit charge. My goodness. So we'll get to him in the 9 o'clock hour. Blake Olson, you're working on the news. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, and timing is everything. You look at the Tyler Boebert story. We'll talk about that. But guess who is on Capitol Hill today? Hunter Biden.
Ooh.
So we'll discuss that.
Is he going back to the White House to look for his cocaine? Allegedly. Yeah, I heard he left a sandwich bag there or something. It's lunch. Thanks for playing along.
Maybe an empty one. Absolutely. Let's see what else. We've got more details on that horrific murder in Georgia. The illegal immigrant from Venezuela. Just horrible story on that. And we'll talk about Trump and also here, man, that was great. Hearing the former governor, he is outstanding.
This is a good one, man. Solid.
Great. You guys are doing a great job. I mean, just what the people, what listeners can hear on this show is pretty amazing. So,
yeah, I was just tweeting that out. This week we've had Lauren Boebert, Nikki Haley, Scott Walker. We're gonna have George Brauchler up next.
Amazing.
Yesterday, Ron Weinberg.
This is where the
party. This is where the party hangs out.
I need to use your phone for about 2 hours.
There you go. There's a lot of text messages you don't want to read.
Love it. Great show.
Blake, going back to Scott Walker real quick. Here's what I love about Scott Walker is he's committed to the movement, right? So you have people that pop into politics and they really like the idea of being elected. They love the idea of being elected and people referring to them as congressperson or governor and that title. And you walk into the room and everybody, and then you get people, did you say Romney?
I said Romney.
I think
Scott
that
Walker,
is.
not so much Romney.
I think that Blake. I think that's incredibly accurate.
Thank you.
And even in his book, because for in my podcast prior to this show, I interviewed a guy that essentially wrote Romney's autobiography, and he would say that Romney had no problem whatsoever changing positions, like on major issues about life. Yeah, about life, for instance. He'd just be like, well, that's what I need to do to get elected. Like that was just the way he's like, I serve the people of Massachusetts, so they're pro-choice. I'm pro-choice. That's what you do to get elected.
Very few people I dislike more than him. Sorry.
Personally, he's a nice guy. I know him personally. I knew his kids.
He has great hair also.
But
that's good.
Blake bringing the heat.
Man,
but
I went to that Fiddler's Green thing.
I was there, man.
You were there?
I put that thing on.
And I am so angry that I went to that thing. Oh
Look.
Disappointed me more than anyone.
The reason we got behind Romney was to stop Barack Obama.
True. Absolutely. But the problem was he didn't try to stop Barack Obama.
That's good.
We saw it in the first debate. We saw it in the first debate at DU when he kind of came out swinging and everyone was like, wow, I kind of like this. And then and then it just fell flat. But going back to Scott Walker, though, Scott's in it because he loves the ideas, right? So you can literally put him in the governor's seat, or you can put him in the president of YAF, or you can put him as the guy that lives next door to you, or you could give him a radio program. he's going to be perfectly content because his mission in life is not to be elected. His mission in life is to advance conservative ideas.
Yeah.
So he just does that wherever he is, and he's
a
perfectly
patriot.
content. That's exactly right.
I'll shut up now. Thank
Scott
you.
Walker, thank you, Blake. So Blake will be back at the top of the hour with some news, and then we'll have George Brauchler explaining all this Lauren Boebert stuff to us. Oh, my goodness. So much news to cover today. So we've taken your calls and texts about the Nikki Haley interview. We'll play that in a little bit, too. She got off stage and spoke with us, and our questions back to you is whether or not she was convincing, whether you thought that her argument was right. She kind of conceded, Bill, that she's not in this to win it.
That was surprising.
Wasn't that interesting?
Yeah, she talked about what she's gathering, but it really is the idea of, I'm here in case the other guy stumbles. And that's really kind of what it was.
It wasn't even that.
Yeah.
It was, I'm here to send a message. And I've heard this from other presidential candidates that they love the bully pulpit.
Yeah.
They know they're not going to win, but when I talk, a lot of cameras are there. So she felt like she had a righteous cause behind her.
Yeah. I think that was kind of Huckabee's thing last time he ran, that it was more about the lights rather than him thinking that he was going to get this thing across the end zone. I did like Haley's tactic on going through, and again, I go back to it, her immigration. And what I appreciated was a direct outline. And everyone talks about, oh, but Trump was great when he did, but Trump has a hard time even articulating his own ideas based on immigration. And one of the ones he talked about, and he's talked about recently, is the idea that we are going to deport more people than ever before. Yeah, but I heard that in 2015. I heard that in 2016, that we're going to do all these deportations. And sadly enough, and I assumed that he had, I went back and looked at the numbers. Here's the weird part. The Obama administration deported
more. This is Ann Coulter's argument against Trump.
Significantly more. Now, Biden, no. It's not like we're getting it better. It's not like Biden is coming and going, all the deportation. No, not at all. Not at all. Both suck. But the issue being that the promise was made beforehand and it wasn't followed through on. So that I have a problem with. And when I hear Trump talk about the illegal immigration, I don't hear the details or how it functionally would work, where Nikki lays it out and said, we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to do this. But I'm biased.
Clear plan.
Yeah. And she hit one of the sweet spots. So I understand that I am biased. As soon as she said e-verify and holding employers responsible, that's a pet thing for me. So I'm not saying that I'm coming to this with an open mind. Once she said that, she kind of had my heart.
If you want to do deportations, though, you've got to have, you're going to face one of the strongest pushbacks from the left this country's ever seen. You'll have riots. And I think Nikki Haley would fold in a second against that.
I think many people would. And part of it is the functionality of how you would have to go about deportations. It is so large. And the other one is the filter. If we would, if someone would come out and go, okay, we are starting with this group. And you don't start with the people that haven't done the crimes, even though they did break the law to come here. If they have been clean so far, that's not where you start. They're the easiest ones to find, but you don't start there. You can't make that argument only because the liberals are going to lose their mind. If you come to them and say, listen, here are the criminals, and this is what we're going to do, and here's the filter, and we're going to start with the bad guys, you take the argument away from the liberals. Then they can't come and go, no, we need to keep the bad guys. You're like, pardon me? Okay, argue for that. I would love to have that argument.
This needs to be a big conversation, because I think this country's got to deal with deportations. This was like, I go back to the immigration issue has been an issue since Reagan, 80s, 90s, and
my entire life.
And no one's really dealt with it. But it's gotten so bad at a point now, deportations on the table. How would you do it?
Yeah. How would you do it? Yeah. How would you? And you don't want that video. The one thing you don't want is that video of the kids
being separated from their parents.
The Ilian Gonzalez. You don't want that. You don't want that. And so you've got to protect against that. So, and that's the problem that I have when we see blanket deportations. Okay. But the ones that probably least deserve it, not saying they shouldn't be deported, but the ones that least deserve it, if we had to have a ranking system, are the ones easiest to find. So if you're going to do it, you got to go after the harder ones to find first, because then everybody else can get in line. Then we can kind of work through it.
That's an interesting conversation. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. We got a line or two open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Men, you've heard a lot about leading treating low testosterone and how it can improve your sleep, your workouts, your energy levels, and more. But I want to talk to you about your love drive, because low testosterone can have a significant impact on your desire for intimacy. And if you're in a relationship or wanting to be in a relationship, a low love drive can really be a problem. But there's good news. Go to RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com and take the Low T quiz on their website. It's a simple 10-question quiz with yes or no answers. It only takes 2 minutes. Then schedule a consult with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic. A Colorado licensed medical provider will review your results with you and discuss your options. Cost of the appointment is only $99, which includes medical consult, T, and PSA test. If you sign up for testosterone treatment the day of your appointment, your visit is free. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic has served the Front Range of Colorado for nearly a decade and successfully treated tens of thousands of men. I've gone there and met these guys. Great guys. Call them today at 720-440-7900. That's 720-440-7900. Or visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. That's RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. We'll get to your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, let's get to the phone lines. Robert, line 1. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Robert.
Hey, good morning, fellas. I think too often we get caught up in this very myopic tunnel vision type approach to, immigration reform and border security and whatnot. This has to be a multifaceted approach. First one is we need to change the asylum laws, and it can be summed up in 2 sentences. If you do not present yourself at a legal point of entry, you are not eligible for an asylum claim.
Agreed.
Period. Full stop.
Agreed.
Second sentence, if you are apprehended illegally, you are never eligible for asylum in this country and will be immediately deported. Period. Full stop. That will solve, I'd say, probably 20 or 30% of the illegal immigration issues that we have. The second one, and you guys alluded to it earlier, is crack down on on criminal illegal aliens who have committed a secondary crime while in the country.
Yeah.
And I don't care what crime it is. Felony, misdemeanor, whatever, boom, you're gone. That's it. As soon as you're convicted of whatever it is, you're out of the country because they are still entitled to a certain amount of due process.
Robert, if President Trump is elected and is looking for ICE leadership, I hope you consider applying for it.
I'll absolutely throw my hat in the ring. But the other, and this is the thing we always forget, man, is visa overstayers.
Yeah.
Visa overstayers account for a good 28% of the illegal, quote unquote, illegal aliens in our country. We got to crack down on that. And this is the thing, man. Don't accuse, I'm not saying you guys, don't accuse me of racism. Because I don't care if you're from Norway or Nigeria or anywhere in between. Illegal is illegal is illegal. That's it.
Robert, appreciate the call. Thanks so
Thanks for
much.
the call,
All right,
man. That
George
was great.
Brockler at the top of the hour is going to explain all these charges
That
against.
seems way too smart for a show. Way too
Rep
intelligent.
Boebert's son, Tyler. You're listening
Definitely
to the
smarter than
Jeff
me.
and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. almost like that reference to something. Yeah, that's weird.
9 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado.
Morning.
It's Wednesday, February 28th, and by now, many of you are already making money so that the government can take it from you. So
and
congratulations.
If you are one of those people that had to be work at 9, you're late. Sorry. Hate to break that to you.
I know most parents have probably dropped their kids off by now too. Are there any? They changed the time on those schools, right? Don't they meet a lot later than when you and I had to go to school?
What they did is they've graduated to where they know the high school kids don't wake up early, so now it's the elementary and the middle schoolers that go earlier, and then the high schoolers end up going later, which is
I felt like
really
I had
weird.
to show up at Creek at like 4:30 in the morning. I don't remember how.
I want to say we were 7:30. Yeah, I think it was 7:30 was the first class, somewhere in there. Yeah, that was brutal. It was really brutal.
We're going to get to George Brauchler here in just a second. George is going to talk and help us decipher the litany, 22 charges against Tyler Boebert, Lauren Boebert's son, including 5 felony charges. So he's going to help us understand all of that. We're going to go to the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Bill. 24 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 50s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, as you just heard, a 19-year-old Tyler Boebert, Colorado Representative Lauren Boebert's son, was arrested Tuesday, facing 22 charges, including several felonies relating to a string of crimes, including conspiracy, stolen financial devices, and IDs. Boebert is running, that is his mother, Boebert, Lauren Boebert, is running in CD4 now. Hunter Biden is being grilled today on Capitol Hill. He's testifying behind closed doors as Republicans trying to get to the bottom of the corruption the Biden family and Ukraine were involved in. Former governor of Wisconsin, Scott Walker joined Jeff and Bill last hour, and he thinks former President Trump should choose Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds as his running mate for VP.
She did statewide massive historic tax cuts. She did statewide school choice. She did regulatory reform. The economy is humming. When things happened a few years ago during COVID, she was one of the first in the nation to push back and reopen the economy and force schools against the teachers union attacks to be open. She's fiscally conservative, but she's also socially conservative.
Well, Trump crushed it again last night in the Michigan primaries. Nikki Haley, the loser, she was in Denver on Tuesday. Jeff spoke to her after her speech, and she doesn't agree with the Colorado Supreme Court attempting to keep Trump off the ballot.
Personally, I hope that they don't take him off the ballot. I think that's a bad precedent. We don't want to start letting, states decide who can and who can't be on the ballot. I think that's not a good thing. I think we always want voters to decide. We want to give them the power to decide who they vote for and who they don't.
President Biden and Trump at the southern border tomorrow, and a new report claims that illegal immigrant Jose Barra attacked and disfigured 22-year-old Laken Riley's skull and then dragged her body to a wooden area. Athens Mayor Kelly Gertz.
So as a parent and as a career educator, this is a traumatizing experience.
But yet people like MSNBC's Joy Reid think that the border crisis is all about population control.
The United States has a population of north of 327 million people. Why do we need more kids? If more people come into the southern border, this is some sort of crisis because we've got too many people and we've got no more space.
Oh my goodness. The crisis is allowing violent criminals to just cross the border. Goodness. I mean, she went on and on. I don't know if you guys heard this. She was also talking about Alabama and the in vitro thing a couple of days ago, and then she got into this.
The planter class in Alabama was for Black women to produce more kids because those kids were property and they could work more kids. And
now listen to that. Now it gets, this is where it hits its peak right here.
Needs more kids because you think that those populations will include people who are maybe destitute and desperate enough. If you kick out the immigrants like a lot of y'all want to do, and you could make them do the work that the migrants are doing now, because that kind of sounds slavery-ish.
Oh, wow. It is all over the place.
Wow.
Goodness
Just
gracious.
wow.
If you
Put her
need
in
some-
charge of things.
Yeah, that would be great. 21 in Lafayette, 22 in Lone Tree, 24 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Great show, you guys. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Was Fatboy Slim nude when they recorded this as well?
No, they weren't. No. No, but I do have
Inside
Fatboy Slim.
joke.
Yeah, I do have Fatboy Slim stories as well. And again, if we want to even go further on this one, as far as the counterpart of the guy that was doing stuff at this time, MC 900-foot Jesus, which is a callback. Yeah, but that's another story entirely.
All
Yeah,
right,
we'll get to that one day.
Speaking of nude people in awkward situations, George Brauchler is calling us live from the Orlando airport.
In the holding cell.
Oh, okay. So Rep. Lauren Boebert's son, Tyler, has been arrested facing 22 charges after alleged thefts. George Brauchler, former district attorney, running again for district attorney here in Colorado. What are these charges? Help us understand what's going on here.
Look, can I take just a moment of personal privilege and say I can tell you guys are killing it because nobody remembers I used to be on the radio from 6 to 10 a.m.
Oh, thank
they
you.
just talk about Jeff and Bill. And then, of course, there's the people you run into at political events that are like, I love listening to you in the morning. I'm like, I haven't been on for a month. Oh, I had no idea. The Boebert charges are interesting. What I discern from this is that this is a kid who's accused of trespassing vehicles. It means letting himself into people's cars and taking out identification and maybe some financial transaction devices. But because of the conspiracy charge and the contributing charge, he's doing it with a younger kid. He's doing it with someone who's below the age of 18, and that's why he's getting that corrupting charge, that contributing to the delinquency of a minor charge. Interestingly, the felonies really grow out of the number of IDs and stuff that he has, because theft of just one tends to be a misdemeanor under most circumstances. But if you have more than one, it becomes the lowest class felony that's out there. The other thing to note is that, with the legislature having shifted so far to the left in terms of accountability for criminals, that trespass of a vehicle used to be a felony. When you broke into someone's car to steal a radio, a phone, a credit card, whatever it is, that used to be a felony. Well, back in 2021, the legislature engaged in a whole bunch of quote-unquote misdemeanor reform, and they changed it to a misdemeanor now. So that's what I discern from looking at the charges that are reported so far.
So your sense, looking at this, and I've pulled up the Rifle Police Department Facebook page, just as where it's all coming from. Is this a kid kind of doing a one-off bad thing, or is this kind of an organized problem with him?
Well, it's repeated for sure. Well, organized, hard to say. We just don't know what else he has going on. But it appears to me when they've accumulated a certain number of IDs, my guess is they'll go back and now put it together with a number of car trespasses. It could have been a binge thing, right? Like they could have gone into a parking lot of an apartment complex once, gotten into 2 or 3 different cars, grabbed up a bunch of different IDs, and that would count it right there. So it could be a spree. It could be over a period of time. It's just hard to know. The charges are, even though you hear the word felony, pretty low level, no mandatory incarceration charges at all. These are the kinds of things where, but for some sort of a developed criminal history, or if this guy was a total jerk to the cops, my guess is he is given some sort of an outcome that won't make him a convicted felon, but would require him to be on probation for an extended period of time, go through some sort of, I don't know what kind of classes they have for breaking into cars and stealing stuff, but that's my best guess.
He's 18 years old. If you were the DA, what's your hope here? What do you step in and try to achieve with a young man that's facing these types of problems?
Well, one, you want to know the scope of it, right? Like the contributing charge, in my opinion, is one that could be pretty damning or not. Like if he's got a 14-year-old kid with him, a little scarier. If it's just a buddy from high school who just happens to be 17 and he happens to be 18, it doesn't feel like that's the big deal. But for me, especially as a parent, speed of accountability and speed of getting him into whatever rehabilitation he needs to be a right-thinking citizen again, that's more important than a protracted case where we're trying to figure out a way for him to beat the charges or no, we're going to trial. I think these kinds of cases with young people, you want to try to get to speed of resolution, in my opinion.
It's a hard thing to see Representative Boebert's family go through an issue like this. And as Bill and I were talking about earlier, we've all made mistakes when we were younger. This seems to be at a different level than just kind of a simple mistake. Why would someone break into cars to steal IDs? Do they sell them? Is it identity theft? Why does somebody do that?
Yeah, hard to know if they're doing it for purposes of setting up some other kind of a secondary market, right? Like they're going to sell them to somebody else who can make use of them, or if it's for some sort of a fake ID thing. We'll know a lot more once we get our hands on the affidavit for warrantless arrest, if there is one, and know what the devices are that they took. That will tell us a little bit more too. But these things all have value. And by the way, the other thing that people ought to be thinking about, in no way is this a blame the victim statement, stop leaving important stuff in your car, right? Like at night or wherever you're parked. Please don't leave your purse in your car. Please don't leave your garage door open. Please don't leave your gun in your car unattended. I mean, all the things where you go, yeah, I should be able to do that in a free society. That's true, you should. But we have people out there like 18-year-olds who make really stupid choices. And these are the kinds of things that result.
Now, George, question about the classification of the financial device. That is very amorphous. But given your experience, what would fall under the umbrella of a financial device, which is one of the things that he's accused of stealing?
Credit card or debit card.
Okay.
About 100%. It's got to be one of those things. Yeah.
That's a
it's
financial
a transaction device.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because of course,
I would say.
Yeah, device for me meant machine. And I'm like, what are we taking that's a financial device? But okay, that would make sense.
I'd be shocked if it was anything more than they stole some wallets or things out of purses or anything like that. We'll know more, but this has a certain feel to it where it isn't, forgive me, special in terms of the fact pattern is my guess. These guys are letting themselves into cars, breaking into cars. And my guess is there's probably because there's no criminal mischief charge. They haven't broken any windows. People are just leaving their damn cars unlocked. They're going in and stealing stuff out of them. That's my guess.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Or those open windows. Now, you talked earlier about the minor possibly being involved. Do you think, and just your opinion, do you think that could be partial cover? The idea that, we've seen this before, the younger kids don't get charged. So is he possibly using that person as the shill, the front, in order to protect himself legally?
You know what I think is, I think that boys do stupid things together. That's just the nature of boys, right?
I agreed.
One teenage boy is stupid. Two teenage boys are exponentially stupid. There's the sum is greater than the part.
Oh, absolutely.
When it comes to teenage boys. And I think that's what's going on here.
Yeah, I can agree that my parents would back that up and say that 99.9% of my stupid ideas were not alone.
That's the problem is, you get two teenage kids together. One of them says something stupid out loud. And when there's no woman there or a parent or an adult to say, you're freshman crazy.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Then you got another kid along the way who says, oh, yeah, that sounds great. Of course we should break into cars. Of course. They want us to take their stuff. This is great. Nobody's really getting hurt here. You can see that happening.
The door is open. It's not a crime then.
Right. They want us to take it. They would have locked the door if they didn't want us to.
Yes.
Happen.
All right. George Brauchler, I'm going to ask you to take off your district attorney hat. I'm going to ask you to put on your political hat here. Does this continue to be an issue for Lauren Boebert? Do you think that she can shrug this off? She should be elected, go back into Congress, work there, serve the constituents. we interviewed her yesterday. We asked that question directly, like, why not go on the speaking circuit? Why not pursue a private life? And her response was, I really like serving people. It's a part of my life. It's part of my heart and what I think God created me to do. Do you think she should continue down that way and run, or do you believe it's time for her to maybe stop and get her personal life in order?
There's two things. Jeff, I listened to you guys this morning, of course, as I always do. And there's two things at work here, man. There's the can she and there's the should she.
Yeah.
And the can she is, I still think she can win, man. If you got 5 people making the ballot, a plurality could be 20%.
Right.
And when you're trucking over $1.3 million from the third and you have the name ID she has, you can pull that off. That's the can she. The should she part, man, that's a different one. And you're talking to a guy who said, I don't want to run for the U.S. Senate in 2016. I don't want to run for Congress in 2018, 2022, 2024, none of those things, because I just didn't want to be away, you know what I mean, from the kids. And that doesn't make me better. I'm just saying you're talking to a guy who has thought in terms of, I'm just not going to be better as a parent with distance between me and the kid. So the should she part, that's really personal for her. And that's got to be, she's got to pray on that. But when I listen to you guys talk about these things, I was doing a lot of head nodding like, yep, I agree with what Jeff and Bill are saying. And I mean, this makes a lot of sense to me.
George Brauchler running for which district? 23.
23. Yeah,
running for 23, this new judicial district that's being created. He's a candidate for district attorney there. I think we've got to set up a debate with you and the primary opponents here soon. So we'll have you back on. But George, thanks for explaining these charges that Rep. Lauren Boebert's son, Tyler, is facing. After you hear what George said, does it kind of change your perspective? Because you read the charges at first and you're like, wow, 22 charges, conspiracy, felonies. Sounds like an organized crime unit. And then George is like, there's probably a bunch of kids running around an apartment complex taking IDs and credit cards out of cars, which is bad. Like if you're the son of a congresswoman, bro, if you do this, it's going to be all over. How do you... And we were talking earlier about how other politicians sit their kids down and go, look, I know it's not fair. I know you never asked for this, but if you get busted doing something stupid, it ends up on the front page of the newspaper.
Yeah.
If your friends get busted for doing something stupid, it doesn't.
Yeah. I know of at least 3 politicians that I know personally that had that conversation. And I know several people in radio that have had that conversation as well, saying, listen, this last name that you are saddled with, fair or unfair, makes you news when you do the stupid stuff. You are going to make news for doing the same stupid stuff that your buddy next to you did. It's not fair, but it's going to be a larger spotlight. And the other part that when you were talking about the choices that Lauren's son was making is, I also, again, not sure if this is fair, but given the situation that Lauren's going through and the crises, I would assume that there is some support systems around her at this point. And the fact that her son, rather than leaning into those support avenues, went this direction is concerning to me.
Yeah.
It's very concerning because I can see a single mother who is struggling to put food on the table and having to work 2, maybe, 2.5 to 3 jobs or, 3 part-time jobs in order to make things work, that she may not have the support system around her to make sure that as her kids getting into these type of areas and situations, they can't make the right choice. But I believe Lauren's family has that around her, and their availability, the access is there. And the fact that, and it's not a reflection for me on her, but on her son more, that her son did not take advantage of that, that whatever he's going through, he decided the best possible choice at this time is crime. That hurts. That hurts because we know there's got to be support systems around.
One good text message here from 0876. Do you think this was an attention getter, trying to get the attention of his mom since she's spending so much time in DC,
that's
not taking advantage of that support structure? I feel, I mean, you just look at these New York Post articles. You not only have this, you've got Lauren Boebert's ex-husband arrested for allegedly digging thumb into son's mouth during an altercation.
Yeah, there have been a couple of things about him
Rep.
getting
Lauren Boebert
physical.
Didn't punch ex-husband in the face. Lauren Boebert granted restraining order against ex-husband.
Yeah, I've heard from behind the scenes that, and again, nothing that I can point to, but there have been some, not physical confrontations, not the idea of, not domestic violence, but there have been some physical confrontations in that relationship. But I don't know context. So I'm not sure if that is, I'm not casting aspersions one way or the other, because I think we all can come to a position where we can empathize that there's going to be something someone else can say standing across from you, and that's going to be a punch in the mush. So
I almost got there yesterday on the guys that were disparaging Kendra Castillo.
Okay. I thought I was going to have to apologize to you on the air.
No,
don't punch me.
It was the caller that was disparaging the Castillo family. There were even text messages that were like, if I ever meet that guy, he will lose all his teeth.
That is an interesting one. And I do think that the texter, that I think there is a cry for help, whether or not it's overt, I'm not convinced of yet. I'm not saying it isn't, but psychologically, is this a crisis? Is it a cry for help based on this individual, this son of Lauren Boebert's, feeling like life and things are out of his control? Absolutely. Absolutely, it is a cry for help that whatever is going on in his life is broken at this point. I agree. I don't know about responsibility, and I won't cast that on Lauren, but the support system's there.
Part of the equation here that I think Representative Boebert's got to take into consideration is if she wasn't running, you wouldn't have as many of these headlines.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with a personal crisis and you just kind of pull back to deal with it, so now the family is in the spotlight a lot more. Something to consider. Hey, when it comes to creating the perfect kitchen or bathroom countertop, it's all about understanding the client's needs and personal style. That's why communication is key. Mitch Floria is the master craftsman with the Art of Granite and works with his team of highly skilled craftsmen, each with their own unique expertise to help bring your vision to life. From single residential installations to large-scale projects, Mitch and his team at the Art of Granite will listen to you and get you what you need. Mitch provides granite, marble, quartz, and other materials from his own warehouse in Denver West at wholesale prices with no markup, so you can get the most for your budget. I've toured around his warehouse. It's beautiful out there. Mention KNUS and receive a bathroom countertop free with the purchase of your fantastic new kitchen countertops, or get a kitchen and bathroom sink free with the purchase of any countertop package. Schedule a consultation with Mitch and visit his beautiful showroom in Denver West, or call Mitch at 303-386-5919, or you can visit his website at theartofgranite.com to start dreaming about your new countertops. That's 303-386-5919. Theartofgranite.com is his website. All right, we'll get your calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadier. Here are the top stories we're following. France is on the verge of enshrining abortion as a constitutional right. Lawmakers in the Assemblée Nationale passed a historic bill which now heads to the French Senate for its final legislative hurdle. Tony Waterman reports from Paris.
The bill overwhelmingly passed the National Assembly in January, but its fate in the Senate, which is majority conservative, is less certain. And on Monday, a French senator tabled an amendment to the bill that could actually send it back to the lower house, delaying the process. Other lawmakers have argued that the bill is completely unnecessary because abortion, they say, is not under threat in France, where women have had the right since 1975. The issue, though, has taken on new urgency after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned abortion rights in 2022, reversing 50 years of precedent.
Extremism is a top concern for voters ahead of the November presidential election. A new poll by Reuters and Ipsos showed 21% of respondents said political extremism or threats to democracy are the biggest problems facing the nation, an issue where voters feel President Joe Biden has an advantage over Donald Trump. The economy and immigration rank second and third among voter concerns. Democrats considered extremism by far the top issue, while Republicans overwhelmingly chose immigration. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadier in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
is the B Baby, right?
Yeah, it is. And the song.
And you don't like, I'm trying to remember, you didn't like these guys for whatever reason. They looked at you wrong?
No, I just never liked the song. We had a music meeting early on in my career, and everybody else loved the song, and it doesn't. I understand. Objectively, it is a good song. It is a good song. It just grates on my nerves. and I was in radio at the time, so I have played the song a lot. I mean, a lot.
It's been around.
Yeah, but it's a good check for listener when you say Bill's a lunatic and has no idea what he's saying. That's a song that shows that Bill understands that sometimes not everybody agrees with him. That was a really good lesson for me. So I understand that some of the strange stuff that comes out of my pie hole, it's a little strange sometimes. I get it. Yeah.
So Colorado's not going to get a lot of presidential candidate visits. When I worked for Romney, we took them all over the place. We did Fiddler's Green and Jeffco and Pueblo, and Red Rocks was the big one. We even took him out to Basalt and Craig, Colorado, and he was running all around. As Colorado's become a blue state in the presidential races, there's not much reason for Biden to come, and I don't think you're going to see Trump here at all. Maybe once or twice. He might do one rally in kind of a friendly area, try to help some of the congressional candidates, but when you do get a visit from a presidential candidate, you've got to take advantage of it. We had Nikki Haley here yesterday. She met with about 800 supporters over at Wings of the Rockies. And then the minute she jumped off stage, she did an interview with us, 710 KNUS. We're going to play that interview for you here. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, because she dives into a number of issues. She explained why she's running, which is not to win, which is fascinating.
That's weird.
And then, kind of calls us back to what the Republican Party used to be like. Do you wish we could go back there? I know some people that do really love Bush, wish we could get back there. Others, not so much, and are very happy with the direction Trump's taking it. So here's Nikki Haley interviewing with us the minute she got off the stage from a rally yesterday. First of all, congratulations, fresh off the rally stage. How was it? How were you received? How was the energy in the room?
We had a great crowd, a great time, and a lot of good energy in the room. It's great to be here in Denver. We're excited about that. We started the day in Minnesota. We'll finish the day in Utah, and so it's anywhere and everywhere.
Oh, my gosh. I remember this. I worked for Governor Romney when he ran for president. I was his coalitions director in Colorado, so I remember it all over the place. You guys are going all the time. So tell us what brought you to Colorado. What was the campaign strategy? What was the thinking behind coming to Colorado?
We have a country to save. I mean, this is about trying to hit as many states as we can and make sure that they know that they have a choice. In a general election, we're given a choice, but in a primary, you make your choice. And this is the opportunity for us to realize that we can either choose more of the same or we can chart a new direction. More of the same is Joe Biden and Donald Trump, but going in a new direction, that's a new generational leader that can put the negativity and baggage behind and focus on the solutions of the future. And that's what I think we need to do going forward. You look at the chaos surrounding both of them. There's nothing normal about the fact that Joe Biden has millions of illegal immigrants coming into our country and doing nothing to stop them. There's nothing normal about the fact that he focuses more on gender pronouns than whether the kids can actually read them. There's nothing normal about the fact that he calls his opponents fascist. But then you look at the same thing with Donald Trump. There's nothing normal about spending $60 million in campaign contributions on your personal court cases. There's nothing normal about the fact that he mocks the military. There's nothing normal about the fact that he sides with Putin over our allies that stood with us at 9/11. It's a problem. And so the focus is, how do we get things back on track? The way we get things back on track is we have to win a general election. And that's at the heart of it. I voted for Donald Trump twice. I was proud to serve America in his administration. But poll after poll, and you can look at the Marquette poll most recently last week, Donald Trump and Joe Biden are margin of error. Usually Donald Trump's down by 3, down by 5, down by 7. In that same Marquette poll, I defeat Joe Biden by 18 points. That's bigger than the presidency. That's House, that's Senate, that's school boards. But more than that, that's a mandate going into D.C. to stop the wasteful spending and get our economy back on track. That's a mandate to get our kids reading again and go back to the basics in education. That's a mandate to secure our borders with no more excuses. That's a mandate to bring law and order back to our city. And that's a mandate for a strong America that prevents war that we can all be proud of. That's what this is all about, is the fact that we can have the best ideas in the world, but if we can't win a general election, we're going to watch what's happened to Michigan, to Minnesota, to Colorado, and to so many states across the country again. Because with Donald Trump, we continue to lose. We lost in 2018. We lost in 2020. We lost in 2022. I was in Minnesota. Since Donald Trump was president, they lost the governor's mansion. They lost the state house. They lost the state senate. Same thing in Michigan. You come to Colorado, no Republican has won the state with more than 45% of the vote since Donald Trump was president. He's pushed more people out of the party than bring them in. There are 10% less Republicans now in Colorado than there were before he was president. And that's the problem. And you look at the early states, he didn't get 40% of the Republican primary vote in any of the early states. That's a red flag. That's a sign.
We're talking with Nikki Haley, candidate for president, Ambassador Nikki Haley, candidate for president here in Colorado. She's just fresh off of a campaign rally that she came here. She's heading to other states as well. I know the early states have been a challenge. Is that message connecting, you think? Do you think that voters are starting to turn a little bit and connect with your message? Is that the campaign plan moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, look, what we're talking about, and I've told everybody, I'm not doing this for a political career aspect. I think I've made that very clear. I'm doing this for my kids and everybody else's kids. I mean, look at the younger generation and what they've gone through. They went through COVID. Now they see this $34 trillion in debt. They wonder what that means for them. They look at the fact that they're worried about whether they're going to be able to get a job, whether they're going to make ends meet, whether they will ever be able to own a home. They wonder if war is going to break out. And then we wonder why there's so much stress, anxiety, and depression. And then they're all living under this tent of anger and hatred and division. We can do better than that. All of that anger, hatred, and division came from Donald Trump and Joe Biden. We could have a country. I mean, just imagine a country where we could sit down at the dinner table and not have a political fight with our family. Just imagine going to work and being able to say what you think and not worrying about being demoted. Just imagine a country where we could strongly disagree and we don't have to hate each other. Because all our kids are seeing is anger, hatred, and division, and none of that is normal. And they deserve to know what normal feels like.
We're talking with Ambassador Haley, candidate for president. Now, Colorado's unique. Votes for Donald Trump may not count in this primary. We haven't heard from the U.S. Supreme Court yet. So if those don't count, could Colorado be the first state that you're winning in the campaign?
Look, we're fighting hard for every state. I will tell you personally, I hope that they don't take him off the ballot. I think that's a bad precedent. We don't want to start letting, states decide who can and who can't be on the ballot. I think that's not a good thing. I think we always want voters to decide. We want to give them the power to decide who they vote for and who they don't. So that's my thought on that. And look, I'm happy to try and defeat him fair and square. I think that's the name of the game, and that's what we should try and do. And I think that at the end of the day, let the people vote, let them have their voices heard. We are blessed to live in America where we can do that. I know Trump had the RNC name him the nominee, but, we don't live in Russia. We don't anoint kings in America. We have a democracy and we're blessed to have it. We want everybody in Colorado to be able to vote.
Colorado's dealing with an illegal immigration surge, 40,000 illegal immigrants in Denver, the city of Denver having to spend over $100 million on those services, cutting them from taxpayers. What is your message? This is a big deal in Colorado. What's your message on illegal immigration?
This is a huge deal around our country. I can't believe we would be allowing this. I mean, the fact that Denver's spending $3.5 million per week on illegal immigrants is unthinkable. When I was governor of South Carolina, we passed the toughest illegal immigration law in the country. President Obama sued us over it, and we won. I want to take what we did in South Carolina and go national with it. We want a national E-Verify program where businesses have to prove that the people they hire are in this country legally. We want to defund sanctuary cities once and for all, so there's no more safe havens for illegal immigrants. We want to put 25,000 Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. We want to go back to the Remain in Mexico policy so that no one steps foot on U.S. soil. And instead of catch and release, we want to go to catch and deport. That's exactly what we need to do to stop the border. But look at what happened last week. Last week, Congress had a border bill. And in that border bill, it had much stronger asylum laws, which we have to have. 3 million illegal immigrants came into this country under the Trump administration because the asylum laws weren't strong enough. But the weak parts about that bill was it didn't have remain in Mexico. We have to have that. And it had a 5,000 person threshold. We shouldn't even have a 1 person threshold. We shouldn't allow any illegal immigrants to come in. But what should have happened is Congress should have gotten into a room and done whatever it takes to strengthen it and not left until they did that. But Donald Trump went and told Republicans, don't pass anything until after the general election, because he said it would hurt it. We can't wait one more day to pass a strong border bill. Congress needs to get in a room, figure it out, and pass something. And Donald Trump needs to stay out of it. This is not about him. This is about the safety of Americans.
Ambassador Nikki Haley, one final question. We got a lot of good people of goodwill, strong faith. How can they be praying for you?
You know, I will say pray for strength and pray for clarity. That's what's most important. I think right now it's about going forward. It's about making sure that we continue to have the clarity to fight and to make sure that we're communicating how we can, we have a country to save, and that our kids and grandkids deserve to know a country that's at peace. They deserve to know a country where they can have hope and energy and faith in the fact that we do live in the best country in the world. And I don't want to see it go to the wayside. I don't want us to lose all the values that made this country so great. And we have an opportunity. We're in a sinking ship with a hole. We can either go down with the ship with Donald Trump, or we can take the life raft. I'm giving you the life raft. I need the people of Colorado to go out and vote and make sure that we can start to make the corrections we need to see in our country.
Ambassador Haley, I know you've got a lot to get to. Thank you so much for your time. NikkiHaley.com is her website. You can learn more about her there. We really appreciate you taking a few moments to be with us.
Thanks so much. God bless you.
God bless you too. There you go. Interview with Nikki Haley that took place just as she got off stage yesterday. She had a rally here in Colorado at Wings Over the Rockies, about 800 people or so. I think she's hanging on to that kind of old vestiges of the Republican Party from the 80s and 90s and George H.W. Bush. I saw this with Romney too. So the way these guys think about the world is the most qualified person should be president. That's just that's just the way they think.
That's
so
adorable.
So go think about this. I mean, think about this shift that's happened, Bill. It used to be important to be in the military to run for president.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. One of the boxes you had to check.
That's no longer here.
No.
That's not even, I mean, Joe Biden didn't.
No.
Donald Trump didn't.
And with some populations, that would be a negative.
Right.
Because
it used to be essential.
Yes, it had to, because you were the commander in chief.
Yes.
You had to understand the function, the command and control. You wouldn't want the guy coming in off the street that had no experience in the military to now be in charge. That would seem strange.
Right. So think George H.W. Bush, right?
Yeah.
World War II, crashes the plane, gets picked up by a submarine, like all that stuff, like a real war hero.
Yeah.
Then director of the CIA, or before that, runs an oil company, director of the CIA, vice president of the United States. The most qualified guy becomes the president.
Yeah.
That's the way it was in the 80s and 90s. And Nikki is like hanging on to that.
Yeah.
And here's my question to listeners. Do you think it's a problem that we've abandoned that?
Ooh, interesting. Yeah,
Donald Trump is a businessman who is a direct poke in the eye against the deep state. That's his mantra. He didn't serve in the military, but he's been successful in business. Absolutely. Successful in business, successful in entertainment. You can't discount that. So there is that track record there, but this isn't the George H.W. Bush days.
It isn't. And the thing is, and this is going to hurt someone's head this morning, and that's kind of what I do. I don't think that you should be a businessman and then use that as the leverage to say, that's why I'm going to be good in government, because I fundamentally think the two are drastically different. And if you come to the government thinking you can run it like a business, you are going to fail. And I know that we've had this bromide for over 25 years of the government needs to run like a business. We need one of those business magnets to come in there and he'll shake them up. And no, because you can't run the government like a business.
You
And
definitely can't fire somebody.
Yeah, well, here's the other reason, though, is what's your customer base? With a business, you get to choose your customer base. You get to decide when you're setting up your business what you're going to make and who you're going to sell it to. When you are in the government, you're responsible for all of it.
To everybody.
You do not get to choose your customer base. You also do not get to choose your product. You can't pick and choose. It's a different formula. So the idea that you're going to come in with business experience and then make the government work is fundamentally going to be a recipe for failure because they do not and cannot function the same.
Text messages here. Nikki Haley is delusional.
Oh.
And that's the nicest thing I could say about her. She talks about normal. Give me a break. We don't need Kim Reynolds as Veep. Trump needs someone who is 100% with him. We don't need another Pence backstabber, from Hugo. Thanks for the text messages, Hugo. Nikki wants a new direction by returning to normal, like Bush Clinton uniparty globalism. Her vision turned GOP into the Democrat uniparty. She lied to you about the immigration bill. It enables more immigration, locks it in for 2 years into the next presidency. What a two-faced person. 5600. Thanks for the text. Give us a call. What do you think? 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Jeff Hunt here for my friends at Dan Kaplan Law. Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Imagine walking in with Dan Kaplan on your side. That is awesome. Dan is the son of a police officer. Dan is also a former seminarian like myself. Dan has dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Kaplan Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplan Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, call 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dankaplanslaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. We'll get to your calls, Ralph and Arnie, in just a second, as well as text messages. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
You think Carrie Underwood's been most successful idol star of all time?
Easily.
So it's country music, huh?
Yeah.
Country pop?
Yeah. Easily Underwood, yeah.
Text here, great interview with Nikki. She makes sense to me as a registered Democrat.
Kelly
She would
Clarkson,
get my vote over Biden. I'm sorry, he's just too old, but a second Trump presidency would be a disaster for the country. The man is deranged. I love that Democrats listen to this show and text in.
That is wonderful. Also, Kelly Clarkson. I'd throw Kelly Clarkson in there. Those are the only two American Idols.
He's still back on the music.
I am. You know, that's how my brain works. It's like, ooh. That's like down the little path. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm back.
All right. Let's do Ralph, Colorado Springs, line 1. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Ralph.
Well, I used to be a registered Republican, but Trump is driving me to vote, I don't want to say it, for anybody else.
So you would pick Biden over Trump, huh? Even as a former registered Republican.
Yes, and the reason is simple, and Nikki hit it right on the head, and that is the difference between me, politics, and we, politics. You talk about good Republican presidents. George Bush, you've already mentioned. W at least was in the military somewhere. I'm a Vietnam vet, so I'm a little prejudiced there. But also what you don't remember is that Ronald Reagan was not a me president, he was a we president, and he got a lot of his training as the leader of the Screen Actors Guild. And I emphasize the S on actors because it was a Reagan for all of the actors. Now you take a look at Bush, you take a look at Reagan, and they at least knew that they were serving far more people than just their own personal goals.
Ralph,
you look at Trump. Go ahead.
No, go finish your sentence, your thought there, please.
Yeah, you look at Trump and what is his personal motive? What does he really want? He wants me, that is Donald Trump. If I happen to make other people money, that's only because they loan money to me. If
Ralph, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Colorado Springs, Ralph, really appreciate it. We're getting through all of our calls here. Arnie Littleton, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I only have one thing that I evaluate who's running for president by.
Yeah.
And that is we have adversaries around the world that have nuclear weapons. And two of the biggest are Russia and China. And you have a head of government in both of those countries that are probably personally murderers. Who do you want dealing with a personal murderer that has nuclear weapons that can take our country out in probably less than 45 minutes? I don't care about all these wimpy people. Nikki Haley was she handled a pretty tough job in the United Nations. I don't care. Whoever comes in as a Republican is who I'm going to vote for. But the bottom line is, who do you want dealing with a murderer of two countries that could take us out in a big conflagration? And I think Donald Trump is the only one that's got the guts to do it. The rest of them do not.
Hey, Arnie, got a question for you on that one. If you think that Donald Trump is the only one that has the guts, can you explain to me when all of the Western intelligence services, including our own, said that the Russians interfered in the 2016 election to favor Donald Trump, Trump's answer was, I looked Putin in the eyes and he told me he didn't. Why would he lie to me? What does that tell you about the strength he has standing up to Putin?
I don't know. All I know is my personal experience. I was in the Air Force myself, and I was one of the guys that worked in an underground missile launch control facility in North Dakota. I know what those things can do, and Donald Trump has the same ability that the Russians do, and I don't put any credence in that kind of a comment. You know, he's too offhanded and too much of a showman.
Would it then take
make up for that?
What about if we put into the item that has been written in one of the books after they left the White House? I forgot which advisor it was, that Donald Trump had asked about shooting nuclear weapons at hurricanes in order to stop them.
All right. What a way to end.
Yeah. I'm not certain he understands how we use the nuclear weapons. Thanks, Arnie.
Arnie, bringing us back to the point that presidents is about. It's about strong defense of this nation, and that's what matters most. All right. It's been a wonderful show, guys. Charlie Kirk is up next. Don't miss that. This has been the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.